to paper, a lost friend's letter. In darkness I travel, my eyes upon a house disheveled. Walking the halls, all the pain I see, paranoia and anxiety. Usher was telling me, paranoia rising, the house is hearing, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. I can't how it can be, the house that leaves its possessing, books and songs to help calm, the words brought sounds from beyond. Mental illness growing thin, something's under his skin. What is he hearing? Paranoia rising, the house is listening, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. Plans not fair, we left her there, a tomb cold, but for her it could not hold. Paranoia rising, the house is listening, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. Usher's ghost, the house's host, like the wind she flew in from the cradle. No one could save, soon the grave, the house of Usher would but cave. Her body on mine, we both lost to insanity's time. Paranoia rising, the house is listening, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. Mother Mary, full of grace, full of grace. I don't wanna be left in this place. I confess my sins again and again, brought down to my knees. Please, Father, set me free. I know you see all the pain inside me. Rosary, Mother Mary. frozen heart bleeds, my spirit cries, I'm completely dying inside. My sins are great, I dread the fire lake. Forgive me, what will it take? Reach for me, oh Lord, in my weakest moment, all of thy own. Rosemary, Mother Mary, can you help me? Please, God, don't forsake me. Remember me, holding on tightly to my rosary. I am guilty and filthy. Forgive me, take this pain away. I know I stray. My soul is tired with heavy burdens, no clergyman redemption. I stand alone, my sins ingrained into my bones. Heaven or hell, where will my soul dwell? Eternity is waiting for me. Jesus, I beg, have mercy on me. Rosary, Mother Mary, can you help me? Please, God, don't forsake me. Remember me, holding on tightly to my rosary. Mother Mary, can you help me? Please, God, don't forsake me. Remember me, holding on tightly to my rosary. Rosarium, Mater Maria, potensni miuve. This pain of coming back to life, I feel everything. When I open my eyes, your face, I'll never forget. Your horror, my pain, I'm alive, living again. I feel every stitch and every scar. Father, what's my purpose? Abandoned, left for dead, a monster. Why have you forsaken me? Accept me as I am. Do you feel like a god, creating without thinking, no pros, no cons? You let me walk, you let me see, you let me feel. I found her, but she did not know me. I reached for her, but she recoiled in horror. I wanted to beg anything for her love. The look on her face, I want out of this place. forsaken me. Accept me as I am. It doesn't matter, it can't matter no more. I'm incomplete, I'm missing me. The world is darker than I remember. I wanna love her, but this heart is not mine. I wanna touch her, but these hands are not mine. I wanna tell her I love her, but this voice is not mine. Looking into her eyes, I saw how love dies. Now that's where her body lies. Father, what's my purpose? Abandoned, left for dead, a monster. Why have you forsaken me? Accept me as I am. Revenge shall be mine, I'll catch you in time. You gave me the pain of coming back to life. I want you to see me, look what you've done, what you've done. A man no more from a madman's hands. I walk alone, no part of me is home. Place me back under the stone. Father, what's my purpose? Abandoned, left for dead, a monster. Why have you forsaken me? Accept me as I am. As I am. What's my purpose? Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, a good shepherd is he, the one that guides me. Though in darkness I find myself alone, I lack nothing, for my God above me his throne. All his love he has shown. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life, above me his throne. The silent storm of chaos follows close behind, but in him.
All right. Let's get started here. Welcome, everybody, to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Join us in the real reality. We were going to try and get started a little early. We did get started a little early, but not as early as I'd have liked, because there were a bunch of stuff happening. But, you know, it's life. Life. You can make all the plans you want. It doesn't matter. But it got pretty cold down here in Texas. For late November, what is it, like 41 outside?
Yeah.
Just got a little chilly, I guess. Let people get into the chat. Finally, okay. Now I'm excited about this one. I've been trying to get this done. I'm ready to go. What's going on in people's closets, dude? Not laughing about people's experiences here. I'm just there's some weird stuff that's been sent to me lately about people's closets, dude. Last night was interesting. We had a so if you didn't know, we did a live stream last night that wasn't planned. We just just kind of happened, and we ended up doing a live stream. And I was like, let's just do a live stream. And what time did we start that live stream? Like 2 a.m?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, and we ended up with over 200 people,
Yeah.
like 200 and something people. Like,
yeah, you had a big crowd.
very end. So it was surprising to see that many people. It was surprising to see that many people in. I mean, of course, you like to see a good crowd, but I mean, going through my notes here, letting people feel. Y'all want to say hi and put your camera on you?
What's up, everybody?
Everyone,
So we got everybody today.
Yeah,
full house.
we got a little bit of a later start, but we'll be all right.
Oh, we started early.
Yeah, we started early.
Well, I mean, a later start than what we wanted originally.
Yeah. Trying to get all these notes here. And there it is. Oh boy. So last night I talked about a friend of mine who, and this is crazy. Like, okay, I got to say this. Been friends with this guy since grade school, right? And my one friend who's an electrician, he knows this guy, and we were talking about it the other day, and it just came up like I was like, he's got a story that I haven't been able to get from him, and it happened to him and my friend, who we'll call him Aaron. That's his middle name. We'll call him Aaron because he didn't go by that, but now he's living up in Washington and like has his reasons for not wanting to talk about it. And he told me, he says, we'll get the story from Jason. And this is about 3 or 4 years ago. And I was telling him, I got a show, whatever. And he's like, well, get that story from Jason will give it to you. I tried to get a hold of Jason. Can never get a hold of him. Finally, my other friend reached my friend in Myrtle Beach, who, I'll be honest, he's just a beach bum now. I mean, he told me this. He goes, I work minimal just so I can hang out and surf and play in the beach. So I don't even.
Wow.
And he used to be a minor league baseball player, a friend of mine. And but his name's Doug, and Doug was just like, you know what? He goes, I'll reach out to him because Doug is not on social media. And then all of a sudden he just popped up, and was like, hey, what's up, and then he was gone again. And I was like, but I talked to him, and Doug was like, hey, I'll talk to him. And I've known Doug since we went to CCD together.
Oh, dang.
And he was the only other non-Catholic kid there.
Right there at Our Lady.
Yeah.
On the south side of town.
It was like, there's all these Czech and German people, and they're like Catholic, and they were like, you have to go, and then there's all the Hispanic people, and there's I'd say 3/4 of the people in Taylor that are Hispanic are Catholic, but about 1/4 of them are Pentecost.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to CCD. I'm not Catholic. I mean, my parents aren't Catholic, but I told my dad I was in protest of this. I said, I'm not spending my Tuesdays going over. My dad's like, well, what else are you doing? You're a 10-year-old kid. Just go do it. You just want to sit around and play video games and run around on your bike or whatever. And I was like, oh, freaking, so I had to go. And then, because I had just escaped from the Christian Science Academy, now I'm up here at CCD, and the nuns were. One of them comes up to me and she's like, I hear that you're not Catholic. And I'm like, I've heard all the stories. And she's like, well, we're going to make sure that you are. We want your soul to go to heaven. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, we're going to teach you all about Catholicism. And I'm like, and she's like, how do you feel about this? In front of all these other people, I'm like, I'd like you not to. Excuse me? Go stand in the corner. I'm like, good grief already with the punishment.
Everyone's just behind you. One of us. One of us.
I remember I was like I went home crying one day from CCD because it scared me so bad. Like,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This lady was telling us like about the whole world's gonna be on fire, and it's gonna end and everyone's gonna die. And I'm like
very bleak.
I'm like 9 years old.
Yeah.
And I go home. I go home crying to my mom that everybody's gonna die and burn to death in a big fire because the lady said CCD.
She probably told you shut up. They will.
Oh man.
So I end up going to the Catholic school. And then, so anyways, that's where I met Doug. And Doug had been in private school, and so we weren't. He was at the St. Mary's.
Mm-hmm.
He went to, and so he was just like I'm not Catholic. Neither am I. We're outside. They give you that little break or whatever. We go run around in the little yard or whatever. And he's like, I'm not either. And there's all these other kids that are over there like, they're going to hell. they're hellbound. They're going to hell. And I'm like, well, I'm not Catholic. I'll be whatever. And he goes, why are you here? And I was like a sentence, I said, well, my parents are making me. My dad says, as long as my grandmother is alive, we're going to kiss her ass and I'm going to go. And so, dude, so, because I was like, but grandma's not there. And he's like, yeah, but she talks to those crazy people up there. So you're going to go and you're going to like it. And my dad he's just one of those people. He works all the time. He doesn't want to hear. He doesn't care. He's just like, shut up. Just go away from me. Go be yourself. Be you somewhere around. That's not me. That's kind of how I felt when I was growing. I was like, yes, my dad just doesn't want to. Because he'd be out there working on the car or something. I'd come out there and he'd be like, can you help? No. Okay. Yeah. I'm working on something. Oh, okay. Goodbye. I kind of wandered back off. Like, that's it. Because you can't help. So whatever. Yeah, so I ended up meeting Doug. Doug's a cool dude. And he had I was talking to him the other day, and it was interesting. It was fun to reconnect. And he's been through some crap, dude. So he died in a car wreck back in 2007. He died. And when he recovered, his whole everything changed. Like, he was just like, dude, life is too short. I'm going to go and just, I'm done with this. He was a day trader. Yeah. And was making a lot of money. He took all of that money. He went and bought a place, out in Myrtle Beach and said, I'm done. And for a few years he worked there. And then he was just like, I'm done working. I'm just going to work. Now he delivers pizza, just enough to pay his rent and his bills. And says, dude, I'm happier than I've ever been. He's like, I probably own 4 shirts. That's interesting. He's a very minimalist guy, and he just works. He works out all the time. Like, that's just his thing. And then he goes out into the water with the sharks. And I'm like, no, thank you.
That's why he works out, so he can fight them off.
He can beat the sharks off. You got to have fast hands to beat off evil. You got to, So we started talking. He says, let me get a hold of Jason. Jason's living on the other side of Houston. Near the I say the other side. He's on the Louisiana border. And Jason says, hey man, real friendly, real cool. He goes, look, I just knew that you and I'm not gonna even say her name, liar head. He says, you and her are really, really tight, so I don't want any trouble, because, and I'm like, I haven't talked to her in over 20 years, dude. Like, So this individual lied to me, or not? It didn't lie to me. Lied to him about, which is pretty much the same. You're lying on somebody, and supposedly her and her new guy or whatever, who, like I said, I didn't even know she had one, told him that we were like best buddies or something. We're all hanging out, going fishing together. Like I'm talking, yeah, like there were stories, and my other two friends confirmed this, that this was something that was told, because she lied to them too. It said that we were all buddy and friendly and. Like that's psychotic, dude.
Yeah.
And over there, like, yeah, we just go out on the boats. I've never seen their boat. I don't know jack about that. And I don't know her man. I don't even know who he is. I don't know his name. So he's like from East Texas somewhere. I don't know this guy. And I'm like, who's this? Who are these people? So I told Jason, I said, dude, all these years, he goes, yeah, I figured you were in that camp, and I'm like, not a part of it. So thank you, Jason, for giving me your story. Yeah, it's so after all these years, because Aaron didn't want to talk about it. Now I can understand Aaron's point. Aaron grows marijuana legally, right? And his exact words were, he goes, sometimes I have to smoke the shit. And he says it very bluntly, no pun intended. Very, very frankly, he says, look,
it's a business decision.
Yeah. And my other friend is up there with them, working with them or whatever. And so they smoke it sometimes to test it. And he said, sometimes the stuff gets pretty heady. And so he smoked a strain that was really like, and he had the most horrible trip. His story is interesting. So I thought about it. I might tell that story because I don't know that he wasn't having a real encounter with something because he didn't tap into something because he was thinking, well, you're not going to want to accept it because I was high. And I said, well, that sometimes triggers things, which is why I don't get high. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you get high, you may die. I'm just saying. That's been my motto for years.
If you get high, it could be die.
It could be die. Like the dude from was it Sri Lanka or whatever?
Yeah.
If you get the high, you could be die. So that's my thing. It's just staying in the land of the living here. Now, what people don't really understand though is the land of the living. Just because you're in the spirit world, don't mean that everybody's dead. That's the real reality. Mm-hmm. So when you're in the real reality, I mean, you're still alive. Like there are people who are mediums or psychics or whatever you want to call them that can communicate with it. I don't propose that, but they do. And then they will tell you, well, the spirit said this, and that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. They don't know that they're dead. I'm like, that's because they're not. They just don't have a corporeal body right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're dead. And so that's such a weird thing. When it was a lady from San Antonio who came to look at our house, when we were living in that haunted house in South Austin, and she's like, the spirit here doesn't know that it's dead. And I'm sitting there looking at my brother and we're like, because it's not. It's just a spirit. It's not dead. We're spirits. She's like, yeah, I know. Yeah. And then she started talking all kinds of other crazy stuff. And I'm like, get out of my house. Like, no, I really did. Like, I literally told her, just get out of my house. I was like, yeah, I don't believe you. I tried to walk away. And my brother's like, oh, she's really cool. And I'm like, no, she's not. She's just babbling some crap and wants me to pay her. I'm not paying you to come look through my things. Because that's kind of what she was doing. Mm-hmm. Just casing the joint.
Rifling through it.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Just some weird long-haired guy there.
Come back with
looking over in the corner. And I'm like, who are you? If we would not have been the people that we were, I fully believe they would have came back and tried to rob us.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, we're back to do a spiritual cleansing.
Yeah.
While you sleep.
Mm-hmm. When you look at me, Squid, Willie, and D, and Scorpion, you're not going to go, yeah, I'm going to come back and take care of this. No, you're just going to be like, let's move on to an easier target. Let's go to someone else's house and pretend like they have ghosts. And because I knew it. The reason I say that, folks, is because I know the spirits that were there. She didn't pick up on any of the human spirits. And I think she was making it up about the other stuff. I'm picking up an inhuman spirit. I'm like, yeah, no shit. There's some here. And she started talking about, and this area is really haunted. I'm like, the kitchen? Because I've had like one thing happen there that I remember. She's like, yeah, I feel it here. I'm like, whatever. Dude. And she's like asking me if I know that somebody died on the kitchen floor. I'm like, do we really die on the kitchen floor? Because maybe if it did happen before I got here. I killed a rat one time there. Like when we first moved in. We first moved in, they didn't have the dryer thing closed off, and a rat got in. And me and Ivan took care of it. We were just like, and I actually ended up beating it. It was horrible. It was horrible. With a empty one of those 5-gallon water jugs. I ended up.
Hey, it was you or the rat? Okay.
Well, I don't want Ivan having it all in his mouth and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, spit it out. But it was still moving, and I was like, oh. It was the most brutal thing ever, dude. And but it was a rat, and it was in my house. I was like, I gotta do something about this. But I never saw another one. But I did tell her that. I said, there's probably the ghost of a rat there.
That's the inhuman spirit she was picking up on.
Yeah.
And she was doing this. She was like, you got to stop being so negative. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Not when you're in my house, lady. She comes in reeking of reefer. You know, I'm like, dude, felt like doing a skit with her. The reefer, bud, will make you pick up on the ghosts of rats. You know, just get out of here. You know, and then we had the long-haired Timothy Leary over there with muscles looking at me like, I wish I could come back and rob y'all. You know, but it didn't happen. Thank goodness. So we got almost 300 people in here. So what we're going to talk about, finally got a hold of this guy. And so we went through a few different encounters that we could discuss. So I got his story, and I got my friend. I got Ryan's story and Brian's story. So there's Ryan, Brian, two different people. And then, we got some stuff. And then Lola, the woman that lived down the street from your stepdad's, was it his sister?
Mm-hmm.
It was his sister. She had a crazy encounter. And this one wasn't too long ago that we were given that one. That one was when she first told me that. She was interesting. Because that's my, Heather, chiropractor Heather, everybody knows her. She's one of my best friends. Her old neighbor, that's his cousin. He's so full of crap, though. When he was telling me, I was just like, is this guy being serious? Because he likes to play games. Okay. Like, he likes to talk crap. He goes, yeah, Lola saw a werewolf. And I'm like, I was like, me too. And he goes, yeah, me too. And he laughs. And I'm like, I was like, that's not his cousin, it's his aunt. I said, did she really? Or he goes, no, for real. Yeah, for real. Years later, I tried to get a hold of this guy over and over again. I finally got a hold of him too. It's been about a year, and it was last winter, and I was in the middle of doing all kinds of stuff. Christmas time, literally a year later. So it popped up, and I said, I need to get a hold of this guy. And so he got me in touch with her, and her encounter was crazy. Now, here's what's crazy. Her roommate at the time was from Mexico. That was her brother's ex-wife, which they became roommates because they were friends, right? But she's from Mexico. So when she started talking to me, like, I speak Spanish, but not on that level. Like, she was just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, hey, whoa. I was like, hey,
slow your roll.
Speak slower or English. She hangs up. So I call back and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to talk to you. And it's Lola's like, no, it's me. I'll translate. I'll just tell you this, So I talked to her and got what I could. And then Lola translated. She had a terrifying encounter with something down in Mexico. She believed that what she was seeing on their street over there on, I guess it would be 4th Street, right? It was 4th Street? I think it's 4th Street, right?
Uh-huh.
That what she saw had something to do with that. But I told her, I said, no. I said, I don't believe that. I said, because I told her this, our town has a history of these creatures, of these entities. And so when she started talking, she says, oh, and then she started telling me, well, maybe what I saw didn't, but she has a lot of interesting stuff that happened to her, so her name is Yamara. And so Yamara has an interesting, so when she first gave me the story, I thought her name was Amara because we have the woman from the Philippines, what I'm talking about? The Oswing.
Yeah.
And so I put it down and as Amara, but then when I talked to her again, she says Iamara. I said, oh, okay, wrong person. So I had them in the same file, but I got it sorted out. I figured it out, got my head out of my butt. I said, here we go. We're going to do this. So she's got some interesting stuff. I don't know that we will get to her story, but that will come out. So we're going to be releasing an episode to try to catch up for you guys. We're going to get for sure on Thursday, but maybe Tuesday. We may do a Patreon Tuesday and we'll tell you Amara's story. So if you want to get the extra, to kind of get in to understand what this entails, because Lola's encounter was terrifying. Y'all probably know my cousin's encounter that was in the book. She was chased across Mustang Creek by a creature that was a black. It looked like what I saw. It was the same creature. It had to be.
Yeah.
And I think what Phil Balcar, who's in the book, him and Sean Winkleman, who I grew up with, and it's a small world. We're sitting there talking to Phil, and he's like, "Yeah, my friend Sean, he lived right there in between Hutto and Taylor." And I was like, "Is his name Winkleman?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Sean had an encounter?" Like, I never knew Sean had that encounter. And you talk to him, and he's like, "You never asked." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because we didn't go to school together. We just knew each other." And my dad and his dad were best friends, and so my parents, they all knew them. And man, just to think of like right down the road from my Uncle Butch's farm/ranch. Because I remember Uncle Butch going, "That stuff's not around here, is it?" And I go, "Nah, that's not around."
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell him, like, it's just right up the road.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally right there. Like, people have seen it right there. Because he would hear these howls and he'd go, "That's coyotes, right?" You know how Butch is.
Yeah.
He don't believe, but then he does. He don't want to believe it.
He don't want you to know that he believes.
Yeah, he just like, that's coyotes, right? That sounds like, I was like, yeah, that's coyotes. Or maybe not, And then one of his dogs went missing, and that dog, Bryce, was the dog, the white one, a big old Pyrenees, and it went missing because he would go too far out on the perimeter. And I kept telling him, don't let him go out there. Those coyotes will gang up on him. He said, Bryce is tough. And I'm not thinking about it. I'm thinking about what else is out there. That is probably a quarter mile from where you had your, what could have been, I guess, the La Llorona thing. So then you start going, well, these creatures exist. We know they exist. I've seen one, and there's been multiple people who've seen them. Now we got 300 people in here. People who show up late, more's the pity. That sucks because we got to get going. And so we're going to get into all these, as many as we can tonight. Okay. If we don't get to everybody's encounter, tough shit. That's how it goes. No, just kidding, man. So we're going to do what we can. We're going to get everybody that we can in there. We'll start with this one. So these were friends of mine. Jason, like I said, I hadn't heard from him in years because his, ex-wife Looney Tune lied and said, she don't watch the shows. I don't care. But that was pretty wrong, because he thought that, I was all against him. I said, don't even talk to this person. I don't even know who she's married to. But so here's what we got. There used to be a store, and Anthony, you will know this, but there's still a convenience store right there. It's right across from Murphy Pond.
Yeah.
From Taylor Pond, right?
Yep.
And I think the place is called like Murphy's Convenience Store or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah,
it used to be, yeah.
Yeah, I used to live next to it.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah. Well, with my dad, yeah.
Your dad lived there?
Yeah. Right.
Why did he move there?
Right
Because the Mr. Getty's was there, the pizza buffet?
Probably.
His dad is skinny. He looks like Waluigi from Mario.
Yeah.
And he can eat like we would go to the Mr. Getty's and we would Oilers game at noon, and then we'd stay for the Cowboys game and leave at 6. And he would eat 2 times, like 2 meals. It was I could never see anybody eat like that.
Like father, like son.
God,
Yeah.
you just eat like if I eat like that, I would just blow up and just be gone into space. Just be like,
Be like that Monty Python skit when he explodes.
yeah, or it'd be like that thing with that idiot made about me, where it shows me blowing up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
away. I just thought that was funny. You're making fun of me. That's fine. They make fun of me all the time, but I don't care. It'll hurt me. I just think it's funny. So here's what ends up happening. We got, who is this here? OC Iron.
I think that's
Oh, that's Conrad.
Oh, that's I was gonna say that's a new Conrad. What's going on, man? So Conrad was on the show last night, real quick here. I'm not even gonna get into how it started because I don't want to give these people anything. But he was on another person's show, and he was pretty smart and level-headed, and and I was like, why is he on that guy's show?
how
That
do you
guy
end up
was
there?
saying stuff like, how did you end up mixed up with that? So we got him and told him to come to our show. Well, he just showed up at our show, but we had invited him, and said, hey. And so he came on last night on that impromptu, and he told some great encounters. Not great for him, I'm sure, but like, you get what I'm saying. They were good stories. And then you had a woman that went by MC,
Mhm.
and she came on and told some encounters. It was a good show.
It was a really good panel last night.
Yeah, and it was, it was real nice and cozy, and I had it at the house, whatever. It was great. So glad to have you on board, Conrad. You'll see everything is, it's not the good ship lollipop here, but we get along. We don't have a lot of trouble, But here's what was crazy, though. It's like the devil tries to stop you from getting these. I'm telling you, man. So you got to really. So me and Jason had a great talk, and it sucks because I thought we were good friends. We hadn't talked in forever because of that situation. I said, man, that sucks. It's somebody, when you do evil like that, that's really bad to come between friends like that. And so that is wrong. And so and I caught up with him, and he's got like 3 kids now that are grown, and he's a year younger than me. So him and my other friend Aaron, they grew up in a neighborhood that I lived in for a couple of years, about 2.5 years. I lived in that neighborhood over there. And whenever I go somewhere or live somewhere, whatever, I always make friends with people. And y'all can attest to this. There's people I've known for decades.
Oh yeah.
And we're still very close, very good friends. And so we had a great time hanging out, whatever, on the phone. And he tells me, he says, dude, I think about that encounter at least once a month. It'll pop up in my head. He stopped having the dreams, about 10 years ago. Now, his encounter happened, him being a year younger than me. He was 16. He was 14 when this happened. So do the math. He's a year younger than me. It happened the same year mine did.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So us and Taylor that have had these encounters happen, we just took to calling it the year of the wolf because, same thing with Phil, and Sean. The same thing with my cousin. I mean, it was just, Donna had her encounter, and so, me and Daniel, we had our encounter. So it's crazy. So here's what happened. His happened in the summer. So his encounter would have been in August. I had mine in October. So you're talking about 2 months prior to me having what happened to me. Me being that I'm really tough and I'm big and strong and I like to beat people up and do all kinds of violence, I just beat the crap out of mine.
There's a big old meathead.
Yeah, I never told anybody the real truth. The real truth is that when I saw it, I was like, "What's up, Buster?"
Yeah.
And then
you went silverback on that ass.
I did for a right hook,
beast mode,
then a left hook. He got me with one sucker punch left, but that was it. And for some reason he just decided to punch me and not use his teeth and claws.
Yeah,
but I took it.
We wanted a fair fight. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, he punched you first, and you were like, "Huh, you don't know, I'm a Golden Gloves champ," and you started boxing him back.
It was actually the kangaroo man.
Yeah.
That's why he resorted to punches instead of scratching.
But I did the sweep. I did the leg sweep, like stick
like
down.
Karate Kid.
Yeah, and then I did the crane kick.
Yeah,
I did all of that, and then eventually it ended up we were wrestling Roman Greco hip lock, good old fashioned. Then I got him in a full guard.
Put a little bit of judo on him.
Got behind him and choked him out. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, haters are going to say this is fake.
Yeah. The haters are going to say, there he goes lying again about beating up Dogman.
No.
How many Dogmen have you beat up?
Yeah. Yeah. It just, you got to do what you got to do. You got to take them down, man. You got to take them down. So the next one that came at me turned out to be just an old lady in the parking lot. I don't want to get into that. I shot her legs out from under her, and I realized I was like, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were a dog man."
She was probably getting ready to shapeshift, so better safe than sorry.
Happens to the best of us.
You're the Target parking lot. Look, hey. Sorry, that's not how I like to do things, but you were coming at me kind of quick. I'm just on the phone with my grandson. Okay, my apologies to your grandson, but you look menacing. All 5'2" of you.
In my defense, officer, She was about to shapeshift into a giant owl person.
A giant lizard.
I'm an innocent man, officer. You're like throwing away an innocent man.
She's a reptilian. I'm telling you. The vampire in her was coming out. The teeth. I saw it. It was bad. It was bad. So here's what happened. There was this store right there, and I didn't know you lived there, but that's weird. I don't remember that. But there was a convenience store right there, and there's a shopping center right there. I mean, I'll go there one day and show you on camera where this is at. I'll do boots on the pavement, and I'll show you. But it's right across the street from the pond. Now, that pond there's a lot of speculation around there because we had a guy one time that claimed he saw one of these things basically waiting in the water over there by the treatment plant, which was weird. Now, I got to say this, the guy he was one of my hometown's 3 or 4 homeless people. And he did talk a lot of crazy stuff. So, I mean, when you have somebody that'll throw cats at people, that's pretty much, you got to wonder, like, the veracity of what he's saying. Is this, but he was saying this kind of stuff, like, before all of us had these weird encounters. Like, he was talking like this in the 80s, right? And he was just he would go into, like, the place where your grandmother used to work, and he would go in there into Moe's Lounge when she was bartending. And he would say all this, like, there's a werewolf out there. And people would be like, Otis, just stop, he's just, he's a crazy old guy, and he was an older black dude, and he would call them the haint. He would say that. He goes, there's a haint out there, and everybody would just be like, here, do you want $1? And he's like, I don't want $1. There's a werewolf. And he would be vocal. And I remember this, like, in the mid to late 80s, people would see them. My sister's ex-boyfriend told me his encounter, which happened, I think, in 1980. No, wait, that's not correct. It was in 88, 2 years before mine. So I did not, I remember, like, in passing, people would talk about this, and you're just kind of going, yeah, whatever. I don't know, like, you don't, like, I'm not really taking it seriously, and every now and then it would come up. There were these people that claimed that they saw this, what looked like an ape-like werewolf-type creature across the line. Now, they call it the line because, this old southern town in Texas. The black and Hispanic people, the Hispanic people had on one side, and the black people lived on the other side. Literally, if you go into the line, most of the Hispanic people lived on that west side.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. And the South Taylor, and then the black people lived in the Southeast Taylor. And there were a few back and forth, but mostly it was divided. And then the other side of the line was the businesses, and then further north was where the white people lived. That was a segregated thing, and it still is kind of a segregated thing now. So, I'm not here to discuss it, whether it's right or wrong or whatever. It is what it is. But that is where some of this stuff was happening, was down there by the line. And so I think the police were kind of like, they were getting called about this ape-like wolf-headed creature. They weren't calling it a werewolf. They didn't know what it was. And they were just like, okay, yeah, you all need to calm down, right? Get off of the wacky weed that you're smoking. There's nothing here. Okay, calm down, you goofy. So that they were not hearing it, But early 90s comes, and then 1990, there were, like, several sightings, and mine was one of them. Mine was just one of, like, many people's sightings. Then in 87, 88, Otis had said something in 88, which when the 87 was when Otis claimed that he saw what he saw. And I talked about that on another guy's show. I don't know if I've ever told that, so maybe I could tell it here. But then in 88 was Gary's sighting. That was my sister's boyfriend at the time. And 90 was mine. And then, of course, Donna, my cousin, is like fourth cousin. We're distant cousins, but we're friends. She had her sighting. And then I think it was Sean and what's his face had his in 90, in December of 90. So it was definitely the year of the wolf. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened there, and Jason's was no different. I just have never been able to pin him down to get him to tell me. And I didn't want to say it because I remembered part of it, and thank goodness I didn't, because I would have been completely wrong about it, because I thought it happened when he was 17 for some reason, but that's not correct. Something else happened to him when he was 17, and it involved something completely different. So it would have been not completely different, same thing, but different people. So here's the story. I will start with his. This goes back to August, early August of 1990. This would have been, like I said, a couple months before I saw mine in October, right? And actually, if you're looking at the calendar, it would have been like very early August, like the beginning of August. So, because I think he said it was August 2nd. So it would have been, what is that? Like literally 3 months, right? Almost 3 months, because I saw mine on Halloween, which would have been almost pretty much like November, in the beginning of November. So here's what happened. There was a store right there across the street from the pond, and I, you know, some people, silly people, they call it a lake. That's a pond, okay? My uncles got bigger ponds on their ranches than that. But what happened was there was a place there. That guy he bought, sold, and traded video games. Now, some people from my hometown are going to know who I'm talking about, and I'm not going to say his name because that would be mean, because we don't know, but there has been some weird speculation over the years. But I still lean toward, if it is a shape-shifting type thing, there was a guy that lived over there by this place called The Hole. And we talked about him one day on the show and how he was a weird guy. He didn't age, which I thought was really weird because he was like old when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like still alive just like 10 years ago. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And he's the same. He looks the same, you know, but he doesn't look ancient. He just looks like he's, you know, older guy who hasn't changed. And you're just like, okay. So there's a lot of weird speculation. So we talked about that. If you've been following the show, you know, what the heck, you know, probably, if you're new here, you're probably going like, what the heck is this? But we've talked about this before. So they were at this place, basically Jason's words. I'll tell it from Jason's perspective, that Aaron was haggling. I don't know Aaron, he's like that. He was haggling with the guy over a few bucks on a video game. And you're a teenager, you don't got a lot of money. You know, Aaron was like 13, Jason was 14, you know, and I would have been 15, or I just turned 15. And Jason's probably about 6 months younger than me. And so they were arguing about a video game and because you could trade it in. Now, here's the deal. He was like the early GameStop, right? So these were regular Nintendo games. The Super Nintendo hadn't been invented yet. And so, or at least I don't think it had. I think it had until the next year. And so whenever they were trading games, if you took a game back to this guy after you had it, he would not give you full trade-in value for it, obviously. Well, you had it and you used it, you know. Well, it was used when I got it. So that was what Aaron was arguing with this guy. And like I said, Aaron was just like me. He was a latchkey kid. His mother was like a workaholic. And his dad lived out in another town, and we rarely saw his dad. He was an insurance agent. I remember that. And Jason, same thing. Both of his parents. His mother worked with my mom at the grocery store. My mom was the manager or whatever. So, you know, it was parents work all the time. So you probably wonder, like, why are we running around all over the place? Yeah. Because we were Gen X and we didn't have parents. That's why. The parents were like, oh, yeah, they're kids. You know, they're reading the paper. Honey, it's in here again. Can you do something with this thing we made? Not joking. That's not much of an exaggeration.
It's hungry. Getting food.
Again?
Take it to the, you know, the McArby's or whatever to feed this thing. I don't want to deal with this. Get it a Whopper Junior.
What do you mean birthday? What is this, every year now?
It's like a yearly thing. You want something for its birthday. I don't understand. Just throw some money on the floor and hope that it goes away. So, yeah, so that's why we were always out running around, because we didn't have any parents, you know. And so this guy that was there, he was older. Now, I would say, I think at that time, he was in his like early 20s, because I think he's about 10 years older than me, but not quite 10 years older than me. So he was in his early 20s, and I think it was his parents that owned that place, but he ran the store, and I remember this, he sold bait and like some fishing tackle and some goofy stuff or whatever. And then he sold like video games, you know, and it was always some kind of hustle with this guy. I remember at one point, you know, because I was real into the pellet guns and BB guns and stuff, and like, you know, shooting at people's windows. I'm not even joking. We were terrible when we were kids. So I had to go there to pick up like pellets and BBs, and I'd go stop in there. And he was always, to me, a weird guy. Like, and he had one eye that kind of went off, like, you know, those people that have the one. Not if you had that, that's
The lazy eye.
no, it's the eye that goes off. Like one of them doesn't look at. I don't know what you would call it, but it's one of the eyes that doesn't look at you, and the other one does. And, you know, and so, and his eyes were two different colors too, which was weird. You know, he was very weird looking to me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and so he was also, and this isn't. I'm not saying this to be freaky or whatever, but he has like a lot of hair on his arms and stuff, and his hands. It was just, yeah, and you're a kid, and you're just like, this guy's big. He's like 6'6". He's a huge guy. But he was always really nice, you know, but he just was kind of off-putting. And I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but like, you know, that he kind of freaked me out, you know. So I was in there, and I would just go in there to get my BBs and my pellets, my copperheads, whatever, and be like, hey, I'm out, whatever. And every now and then I would maybe, you know, work a deal with him on a video game. That's how I noticed like his hands and stuff. Because I remember he would lean on the counter and he would look at you. And me and my friends would kind of just back up. Like, this guy's a giant to us. You know, he's a big guy. I mean, he's still taller than me now. And so, you know, worked a deal with him on a video game, and I kind of got screwed over, so I never really dealt with him again. I was just like, whatever, dude. And so my friends were doing that, but Aaron has a smart mouth. And so he goes, you're always trying to rip us off. You know, and he goes, well, then don't come back, kid. You know, let's, you know, just whatever. Simple thing. And he's like, well, I won't. And so he grabs a game, whatever, he walks out, you know. So Aaron's like talking crap, you know. And by the time that they had been in there, it was starting to get dark. And, you know, in the summertime, you know, in Texas, I mean, you're thinking, you know, you hear the cicadas and whatever, and it's like, oh, it's time to go, you know. But they're teenagers. And, of course, Aaron's mother was working. She was always working. And so they had a house up at the top of the hill on Lake Drive, and they're walking, and right next to that store is a church. And then right next to that is the hike and bike. The hike and bike has been the scene of a lot of weird stuff. Since I told my encounter on the show, which I didn't live with the hike and bike. I lived like further south, which would have been like an eighth of them, not even very far. You could walk very easily to where I had my encounter from there and probably not get tired. So it's not far. You know, you could walk there very easily. And so in that whole area right there, and it all centered around the water and the pond. That pond is basically an overflow from the artesian well. And at one time, this was one of the deepest, I think it was the deepest at one time, the deepest artesian well in the world. Mm-hmm. And so the water would come up there extremely hot. And somebody says about the donations. If you feel so inclined to help with the donations, folks, because this is the last day of November. And so anything you can help with to help with the food drive, we have a food drive we're going to be doing mid-December. So if you guys would be so inclined as to help, the donations will all go toward that food drive. So anything you donate tonight will be going toward getting people food for Christmas. So thank you for that. Anyways, so this pond or whatever, you know, is right there. And so I always wondered like why so many people saw, you know, but I think it's the water. And I had a friend of mine who known him for years too, Joe, who says, you know, what if, and it was his theory, what if these things are coming up out of the ground because they're pulling that water up out there? What if they're just, you know, you stop and think about it. Like when the Native Americans talk about water spirits, you know, I mean, if these things are not completely flesh and blood, and they could literally, you know, exist in the water, and they don't need to breathe like we do, then they could come up out of there and be whatever they are. So possibly it could, what was that? Possibly it could be something like that. I don't know. But it doesn't mean that that they're necessarily like aquatic creatures. It's just that, kind of like when we were talking about how the people had seen these Bigfoot around the flood, when the flood happened back in July here, and those people had the Bigfoot and the weird creatures on their land, the reptilian thing, whatever, lizard thing that was on the land. Thank you, Debbie Cawthor. You're so awesome.
Awesome.
And so that land right there, New Braunfels, right outside of New Braunfels. And now that we talked about that on the show, a lot of weird encounters coming from there. So this particular area is inundated with encounters. So, me and my brother had done a push pin on the Devil's Backbone, but I wish we would have made one for here, because then we could go and pinpoint. I could show you, hey, look, this is where it's happening. This is what it is. So they were walking, and I know Aaron, so he's probably talking crazy. It's probably like, man, if that guy, I got because he's that way. He'll argue with you over peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm not kidding. When he was younger, he seems to be a lot more level-headed now. Maybe it's all of the stuff he grows. I don't know, but he's walking over the bridge by the Taycan bike, and they hear because there's water that goes underneath that little bridge, underneath the road. And they hear like something walking underneath it. And Aaron is complaining, and Jason's like, dude, dude, stop. And he's like, what? He's like, and he's like rattling around. Jason was like, there was this plastic bag he had, from the store, and he's kind of rattling it around. He goes, stop. He's like, listen. He goes, and even though there were vehicles, he goes, it wasn't like there was no traffic or anything like that. It wasn't that pocket reality thing where people talk about where everything gets quiet and they're kind of taken into another realm. No, that didn't happen. He said it was just like silence, and then there was a car going by, and he goes, listen. And him and Aaron stop and listen, and Aaron looks over the bridge and says, what? And, and Jason's like, he's very agitated. And he says, dude, there's somebody walking below it. Very loud, like heavy. And what was really interesting is he says, dude, it sounded like somebody breathing. And the store had just closed, and it was like 9:00 at that point. He said it was a little after 9. And he goes, the store had closed, and the guy had, because they went outside, and they remember the grocery store, the Super S, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
So they had walked up to the grocery store, and then they had walked back, and the guy had closed, and it was, So they were aggravated. Aaron was anyway, and he was walking with these plastic bags, and he was like, dude, be quiet. He hears something walking loud, breathing underneath the bridge. They didn't see anything. And so Aaron's like, whatever, and just keeps walking, and Jason's convinced that there's something down there. So he kind of looks around, and he sees a stick right there, and he goes and he takes it, and he throws it down into the creek. And the creek is just kind of flowing, a little bit, and he was like, nothing happened. And then he heard a growl. Then he's like, hey, wait up, dude. He takes off running to catch up with Aaron, who's walking very fast, and Aaron's like, he says, hey, dude, or Jason tells him, I just heard a growl. And Aaron goes, really? Turns around, walking backwards, because I don't hear anything. I think you just, he's like, this place is spooky. He goes, I've never had anything happen. A lot of our friends up to that point had some weird stuff happen to them there. Not as dramatic as like a werewolf or a chupacabra, but something, and like weird noises and just people seeing red eyes, things like that. So they keep walking. They get up to the top of the hill, and right there, it's across from our old football stadium, where the high school team plays football. And that's Davis Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's walking across Davis and Lake Drive. At that point right there, they look to their right as they're crossing the road. Now is where it seems like there's no traffic. There's nothing. And when they look to their right, there's this thing just laying there kind of like on the curb, right outside of someone's house, 3 houses down. Now, right there would have been where the hike and bike, where you can kind of come in between So this thing was laying there looking at them, and it looked, according to Jason, now here's where things differ a little bit. The one thing that Aaron did say to me, he said, whatever Jason tells you, it's true. That's what happened, whatever. He didn't like talking about it. He gave me a brief description of it. He said that it had really shaggy hair, almost like the hair was like a man's hair, like long hair. He said that's what he remembers. Now, here's the thing Jason said. Jason said he saw that when it was laying there on the road, but it didn't look like that later. Right? Now, I'm going to say something, and I'm not saying that the guy at the store, and I will not say his name, his hair was shaggy kind of down to his shoulders. This gives me the goosebumps when I talk about this, because if you remember the story that we talked about where there was something that swam, of course, we've talked about it many times, the thing that the guy walked up out of Lake Travis and the hair was falling off of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder about that, because is that part of the shifting process? And if this was, if this being was shifting and maybe the hair was, not off yet. And that sounds completely nuts if you're not initiated. But as Bane says, we are initiated. So But this thing was laying on the road, just kind of chilling. And Jason says, we look and we see this ugly creature that almost, at first, he said it looked kind of like a lion mixed with a wolf. It wasn't standing on its hind legs. And Aaron was like, what the F is that? Aaron cusses a lot, always has. And his mom would whoop him too. Like one time she whooped him in front of me with a toilet brush.
Oh,
I'm not even joking, man. She was hit because he's got a really bad mouth. And his mother's like, stop it, So we'd be able to spend the night because she was always gone and, whatever. So anyway, I saw him hit him with a toilet brush one time. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to go home now.
I'd rather get the belt.
Yeah. Just eat soap.
Well, I think because he was in there cleaning and he was cussing.
Yeah.
Because me and Jeff were like, hey, let's go, and his mom's like, no, you're not going till you clean. And so we were just like sitting there waiting, And Jeff goes, well, we'll help him. And his mother was like, no, he needs to do it himself. And then when he started cussing, said the B word, his mom went in there and just started whooping him with it. And then she goes, y'all can leave. He's not going anywhere.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
But it didn't matter because she worked graveyard. So when she left, he came out anyway. He was at her house knocking, hey, what's up? Anyways, a goofy curly-haired goofball.
I can connect with that.
So anyways, Aaron described it as like him. He goes, you know how I got curly hair? He goes, it kind of looked like that, but long. And I'm going, kind of like the guy that worked there. Like I said, I don't want people to know who he is. I'm not going to say his name, but anyway, and it could be nothing. I don't know. A coincidence, I guess, right? So they keep walking and they're like, it's not following us. It's not getting up. And then Jason says, okay, it's moving. It's actually crossing the road and it's trotting. And he goes, what is it? Jason goes, I don't know. I didn't look back. I just real quick, I saw it moving. Aaron's like, well, it must be a really large dog. And then that's not totally unusual in a small town of about 12,000 people. I mean, you got a dog that's running around loose, It's like AJ Jamal, the comedian, said, we don't buy a dog. You go outside and get a dog.
Yeah.
There's a dog right there. Go get it. Why you buying a dog? Anyway, the dog is running around loose. So they start walking, but they're nervous. He goes, and there was this fear that overtook us. And he goes, there's this one church that always has the pumpkin patch every year. It's right there on Lake Drive. It's a very big, and they always do it every year. He said, we were about that. Thank you, Barry, for that donation.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Every little bit helps. And so they were running and they got to about that church and they hear a howl, but it was more like a growl howl. And Jason says, dude, I almost loosed my bowels. What this thing was, he goes, how could these people in their houses not hear it? He said it was like one of those sirens on a tornado. Like you could hear it. He's like, and then we just took off running. And he goes, and Aaron was a little chubby back then. Of course, he can't, keep up with Jason. Jason's like, tall. Jason's like 6'4" now. So Jason's like running. He's like way ahead of this dude. And Aaron's trying to keep up. He says, I look back. I'm almost a block ahead of him. We're running. And then he goes, and I was tired. He goes, so I stopped and I was putting my hands on my knees. He's like, and I just looked back and Aaron's like, help me. Go back around. I'll be honest, he's kind of like Cartman back then. Yeah, seriously. I hate you guys. You know, he was always the complainer, like the group. We would do stuff, you know, a little group we had. He would complain. Lose at a video game, I'm getting home. Problem is, it's his game, you know, because his mom bought him everything. So we had to, Poopikins, you have another video game. I'm joking, Aaron. If you're listening, you know I'm kidding, not really. So he's running, and Jason's like, well, I don't want to leave his little chubby ass. So you see, his exact words, not mine. So he decides he's going to go back and stop with them. And they were kind of scanning, you know, and they're like, and finally a vehicle drives by, and they're like, okay, maybe everything's back to normal. You know, maybe this creature is not following us. It's all, you know, it's in our head. Why are we running? You know, let's stop running. So they're walking, okay? They get to the point where they're going up the hill, and Anthony would know this, on Lake Drive, there is a house there that looks like it's the house that time forgot.
Yeah.
There is literally, in the middle of town, it's one of the actually, it is the oldest house there on that street.
Mm-hmm.
At one time, that family owned like that whole area from there west, right? Going all the way out past the loop, which is, if you're from Taylor, you'd know that. They sold the rest of that land generations ago, and a bunch of people built houses on it. But to this day, it has a little pasture in front of there. Am I lying?
No.
I'm not even joking. In the middle of town. You've seen it, Tony.
Mhm.
Yeah. And there's an old Victorian house there that goes back to the 1800s. And that house is from, literally, it's like from the 1845, I think it was built. So it was back before Taylor was even founded as a community, right? So that land right there has a little pond on there, you know, and they have, you know, it's a pretty little spot, and they have a couple horses, and at that time they had a donkey. Well, they get up to about that point, and they stop again because they're tired, because they were running and stopping. And then they just kind of laugh because, you know, Aaron's house is just right around the corner, you know, and he's like, you know, okay, we're almost home, you know, let's quit being afraid, you know. So they kind of looked at each other and they laughed, and they're just walking up the hill, and they're like, man, what was that, you know? Aaron didn't really know what to make of it, and Jason just like, I just saw it walking, you know, and it looked weird. Like, it did not look like it belonged in our hometown. Of course, growing up in Taylor, not everybody would know, but certain people, and you know, would have this, have heard these stories. And Aaron did not, but Jason had, and Jason was like, dude, okay. He goes, growing up here, you know, there's people claim to see creatures, like monsters, like they look like werewolves, you know, right? And Aaron is just like, what? And he goes, that was a dog. And he goes, that was not a dog. And whatever was underneath the bridge, I think it was the same thing. He goes, there's no way it could have gotten there that fast. He goes, it could have, it was a werewolf. And so Aaron was like, I don't believe that. So they go inside to Aaron's house. His mother is getting ready to go to work. And she's like, I got to go to work. Y'all behave. There's some pizza rolls, whatever, in the oven for you guys. You know, just turn it on, whatever. Bye. His mother was really cool. She was really cool. They were originally from Seattle, but she had moved down here. And for years, we were friends for years, me and this guy. And so, I don't know. There was another friend we had too, named James, who was maybe more of a Cartman than he was. So I would give the Cartman award to him. Yeah, but yeah. So, anyways, about 11 o'clock, his mother leaves to go to work. You know, it's like 10 o'clock, whatever. About an hour later, they're playing video games, right? And our other friend was supposed to come over there, and he had a bunch of stuff to do. And that is, you know, my friend, the electrician. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to go over there. He didn't show up. He goes, man, I'm just going to talk to you guys tomorrow. I'm tired. I've been helping my dad with the yard all day. And so I'm not going to come over. Now, I'm not going to lie. Some of these friends I grew up with, they like to play jokes, and we would do silly, goofy things to each other all the time.
Little pranksters.
Yeah, it got stupid. Like, really. Like, okay, so like one of the things we did, we took Jeff's lawnmower and we took the blade off of it. So he was like walking around pushing it, and it wasn't working. And so it was like That's what me and Aaron did. So Jeff was just like, what in the hell is going on? This thing doesn't work. And his dad, there's no plate. But, and Aaron was like one of those, he could tinker with stuff and make things work,
Yeah.
He had that kind of mind, So it didn't surprise me when he went up there and started a business in Washington. Here's the thing. When he was mad, he was one of those kids, and I don't care what he says, he would punch the wall.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Break something and then be like, yeah, I broke that. I don't care. Then he cried about it and wanted you to get it for him for his birthday or something. You know what I mean? Like he did stuff like that. And he was just that guy. He was just kind of that guy. And the only reason I would say he would be more like Carter is because of the mom. James was single. He had a single dad, right? But he was kind of that way too. But his dad would whoop him. He'd whoop his ass.
Yeah.
So really bad. So, but this dude, Aaron, he did that kind of stuff. So he would break stuff and then he would give everybody a list on his birthday party of what you to bring. For real. I was like watching South Park and I was going like, this reminds me of people like this. You made me Pepper Mega Man, that kind of thing, because I broke it last summer because you made me mad. Like, that's not my fault. So you'd be like, whoa, dude, like, why are you doing that? Because I'm crazy. I'm spoiled, whatever. So he won't tell you that, though. He was neglected, and that's why he was that way. So he had this anger problem. And so when Jeff said he wasn't going to come over, well, he was kind of mad. He was like, well, I'm pissed off, whatever. And so he called him up and bitched him out and said, well, don't ever bother talking to me again. We were supposed to go do this and that and blah, blah, blah. And it was all because there was this girl who Jeff's sister was friends with that they wanted to go and talk to. And he needed him, to be the whatever. And I knew this girl and I was like, you weren't going to get her anyway, Aaron. Let's be honest. Okay. About a little after 11 o'clock, they hear something moving around the backyard. And he had this dog, which was the nastiest dog on earth. He never bathed it. And it looked like, it was a Cocker Spaniel, but the dog it didn't look like a dog. It looked like, I don't know, something like
something you'd find
like
under the couch.
If you drew a fractal, you know what I mean, of a dog. Hand Banana comes to mind from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. The dog, Sherry was his dog's name. I remember he had this dog forever too. And it was like when it got older, it was real smelly and it would fart all the time, that kind of thing. Anyways, the dog is going crazy. Then he has this other dog in the backyard, which is mean and vicious. And he can't have that dog around the other dog because it would attack Sherry, the Cocker Spaniel would attack it. She would attack the pit bull and the pit bull wouldn't do anything because he was a puppy who grew up with her. And so he would just let her beat him up. And then eventually he would get mad and snap at her. So she was so weird. So anyway, you'd be like playing video games and the dog would go and stand in front of the TV and just stand there looking off into space. When they got older, and you'd be like, okay. And he wouldn't tell the dog anything. He would just like go like this.
Oh my God.
And so this dog starts growling and barking and going up to the window and going crazy in his sister's room. Sister was never there. She was always doing stuff. So he goes over there into his sister's room. The dog is barking and whatever was by that window bumped it and the dog urinated right there in front of the window. And Jason goes, we were standing there and I was like, for all of Sherry's flaws, the dog did not do that typically. And so Jason was like, the dog just began to urinate right by the window. He goes, and then we heard the bump again. And it bumped, like in between the two rooms, you could hear like the walls. And he goes, and it was so heavy and hard. It was like, whoa, kind of shook the house. So then Aaron's like, oh, that's Jeff. He's over there. He thinks he's being cute. Oh, he wants to play games, huh? Okay, I know it's him. So he goes and grabs his BB gun, his pellet gun, and he was going to shoot him with it. We did this to each other. It was all in good fun. We did the same thing with my friends in Rockdale. We'd shoot each other in the woods. So he goes, I'm gonna get him. He goes and gets his pellet gun. And then Jason says, dude, something came over me and told me don't do this. That is not Jeff. That is not any of our friends. It's not James. It's not, it's not Josh. It's not anybody. That's something going on. And he goes, Aaron. He goes, I'm scared. I'm scared to death right now. Let's call the police. And Aaron's just kind of like, I know how he is. And he was just kind of, yeah, I imagine him doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Do what I want.
I do what I want. I wrote 12 gangs, So he says, he goes out to the garage and opens the garage door. whatever, this is, and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, whatever's out there, you're going to let it in. And Aaron turns around and he's looking at Jason. He's like, you were so full of shit, dude. And he goes, when this garage door begins to open, he goes, I saw legs. He's like, I saw legs. And he goes, I'm wanting to utter the words to Aaron and tell him, stop, please, for the love of God. And he's over there, with the button or whatever. And he goes over to him and he goes, dude. And then Aaron turns around and he sees this. And at this point, you can see the waist. Ugh. And he's like, that is a monster. That is these backward bent legs, black, hairy, shaggy, whatever you want to call it, of a werewolf. And he's like, Aaron. And he turns around and Aaron sees it. And what's he's got a pellet gun. I'm like, what is he going to do? Shoot it in the nads? It's not going to help. He's like, it goes up. He goes, we go inside. We close the door. We didn't bother to try to close it, because we just ran inside. And of course, we both run toward the phone and we bonk heads trying to and we literally fell backwards, both of us. And Aaron's holding his head and he goes, and I got up and I grabbed the phone and I was like, 911. He goes, I called the police. He's like, I called the police. Unfortunately, in a small town, you call the police. This isn't 911. This is, and he tells the dispatch lady, there is a monster. There is a monster in our driveway at such and such, over here in this, not like affluent neighborhood, but like a nice middle-class neighborhood, right? And he's like, the monster's outside and blah, blah, blah. And the lady hangs up on him.
That's why you should just say, there's a home intruder trying to break in.
I have said this before on the show. Please do not call the police. We talked to a sheriff, right? And you and me talked to that tribal cop at the casino. They all said the same thing. Don't tell us that it's a werewolf. Just tell us. Now, once you get there, he goes, then you tell us there's a werewolf. He goes, and then we'll go, okay. But if you tell these people that there's there's a vampire outside, you're not going to get a response. They're going to laugh. They're going to go, really? What is the vampire? What is it? What is it doing? Is it doing the Macarena? Because nobody's going to believe that. So Jason says, I screwed up. I said that. He goes, and then I hear this bang on the garage door. He's like, this thing, I didn't get a good look at the upper body at that point. I just saw the legs, and it was big, thick legs, thighs, whatever. For all we know, it could have been 10 feet tall. He's like, but you hear a bang on the door. This thing's messing with us. He goes, it easily could have gotten in the house. Now, if it is the same creature that I saw when I was 15, 100% it could have gotten into that house. So it's obviously messing with him. His dog in the backyard, here's what's weird. The dog in the backyard, which barked all the time, was not barking. The dog inside was nowhere to be found. I think she was probably hiding under one of the beds. And so Aaron gets the phone and decides to call the police too. And he says, look, lady. Of course, he doesn't talk to people correctly. He says, look, lady, stop being a B word and listen to what I'm trying to tell you. We have a monster in my garage. And this lady's like, did you just call me the B word? Click. So that's not working out. However, his mother did have a very large handgun. I know because we got it and messed with it one day, which is it's a small town. We did stupid things. He goes, I know where my mother keeps her gun. He runs over there to the safe, starts messing with the safe, whatever. And then he looks. This is a funny part. And Jason's standing there and he goes, hurry, hurry, messing with the safe. And then he looks and Jason's like, is that it right there? It's just right there next to the bed. And so they grab the gun. Well, it's not loaded, right? He says, we got to load this thing. Where are the bullets? And he goes, probably in the safe. So they go to the safe. He opens the safe. There's no bullets. So they go rifling through the drawers. They find some bullets and they load it. Being that we are from a small town, we all are very familiar with firearms, even by the age of, it's kind of like this. You learn how to walk, you learn how to shoot, or maybe the other way around. I don't know. So they get this gun and they run back into the kitchen and they're like, if it comes in here, we're going to do it. And so Aaron's telling him, I'm going to talk shit to it, and tell him what's up. He's like,
why?
How? He's like, I'm just going to tell it, go away. So Aaron's like, if you come in here, you're going to get your ass shot. We got a gun. Jason's like, don't do that because you don't know what this is. He says, it's a monster. And he goes, you know what? Shoot through the door. Yeah. And Jason's like, you want me to shoot through the door? He goes, your mom's going to kill you. He goes, I don't care. He goes, this is life or death. And they're freaking out. And Jason's like, I look over and Aaron's weapon is an ice pick. He's got all these butcher knives and stuff, and even a machete in his room. He's got an ice pick. And he says, he goes, dude, it was the most terrifying moment because we weren't thinking clearly. He's like, so I tried calling 911 again, and I pleaded. I said, look, there is something here at our house. So the lady says, we have already sent an officer there. Okay. And she's like, you want to stay on the phone with me? She's like, don't be cussing at me and tell the truth about what is going on over there. And he's like, okay. Jason, using his head, said there's an intruder trying to break into our house. Where is it at? We think it's in the garage. Right when they think it's in the whatever happens in the garage, the back window busts like, right? Weird thing is, there's a dog in that backyard. That dog is not doing anything, not making noise, not doing anything. Probably they had a little deck. The dog was probably hiding under the deck, which is what I assume. And the dog was not barking. It was part pit. And it wasn't no weak ass dog. That dog was weird and mean. Both of his dogs were. But the little one was just ugly, weird, mad hair, whatever. Had like sticks and rocks in its hair. But like the homeless lady from Home Alone 2.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, that's how Elvira gets before we shave her hair. So anyway, this dog is in the backyard. It's not making any noise. And I can't remember that dog's name. I remember this other one, Cherry, because he had it forever. But this thing is like in the backyard and it breaks there's like this big long window. The bottom window busts open. Of course, he's telling the police officer, he's the dispatch lady, he's like, something is breaking in. It's in the backyard now. And so he's like, I have a gun. And she's like, this is what she says. She says, put the gun away, right? Police officer here coming. We don't want you shooting the police officers. And he's like, I don't care if this thing, whatever. So then the phone gets dropped and he doesn't care. He just leaves it on the counter and they go over there and he's standing by the kitchen window and very brave. And Jason's always been that kind of guy. He's a very smart, level-headed guy. And Aaron is the opposite. Very brave, but not level-headed. And he's just like holding the ice pick, and Jason's like, "Why don't you go get a bat or a machete?" So like, dude, we play baseball. Get a, what is that? He's like, dude, I could stab it right in the eye with this thing. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. He says at this point, the top part of the window breaks. There's these curtains that rip open, and he's like, and we can see clearly. He goes, I got a good look at this thing. Its head came through the window for a second. And he goes, and I'm telling you, Wolf, that's what he told me. He said, it recognized that gun. He goes, I pointed it right at it. He goes, and when I did, he goes, that head moved back real quick. He goes, it knew what that was. He goes, this was not an animal. This was not some kind of whatever. He goes, no, this was something that had human level intelligence that understood a firearm and what it could do. And he goes, and I was like, I have a gun, you bastard, whatever. He goes, I'm screaming at it. We're screaming at it. And we were raised on like Iron Maiden, Slayer, and Eazy-E. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
No, son.
We were drinking when we were teenagers and getting into our parents' weed. That's what you did. I mean, it's Gen X. Water hose and neglect, folks. That's what we were raised on, right?
Like Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies, yeah. There was a lot of that. And fighting all the time. We beat each other up and then just play video games. Your lip would be all busted and swollen. I can't believe you did that to me, Mike. God, you're such a jerk. Who cares? You just did it. Me and my best friend Daniel beat each other up in the backyard. Beat the crap out of each other. Couldn't even remember what it was about. Be the last burrito in the freezer or something. Doesn't matter. So we had this situation here, and he says, dude, it was really bad. He goes, I saw it, but it disappeared. He goes, and the next thing you know, we hear, we look, we see the lights, the siren, and he goes, we're like, thank God. So he goes, I put the gun down, I run to the door, open the front door, And at that point, he goes, there was nobody there. And we're like, there's a cop car right here. And then there's another cop car, where are the police at? So then they walk in through the garage door and they're like, Taylor PD, whatever. They come in and the police calmed them down and they said, we were banging on that door for a while. And, you guys weren't. He goes, so time must have like really, he goes, dude, it seemed like it was a very brief thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, but I looked at the clock. It started around right after 11. It was already like 12:20. And he's like, how could this have gone on that long? And he doesn't have any kind of explanation for that, how the time, and the police were trying to get in, And crazy thing is that garage door was unlocked. They ran inside frantically and left the garage door unlocked.
Jeez.
Creature could have just went and walked in. But the description of this thing was so massive that Jason said it probably wouldn't have fit through that garage door, through the door that goes into the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? That's the question. Like, what was this thing? By the description of what Jason told me, he says it was definitely a werewolf. He said it looked like a werewolf. And of course, Aaron, and now here's what Aaron told me. He said that, he goes, I'm growing up there, whatever. And the first year that he was up there, he goes, I was up here, and he wasn't a young man anymore. And it was the first year that they had legalized it up there, He said, and I'm up here and I'm growing. And he says, I'm not a kid anymore, but I'm not, older, So I was smoking a lot. He goes, I don't do that anymore. He goes, but I would smoke a lot. And he said, I had an encounter with something in a dream. So he was out there in the field and he said, there had been reports of Bigfoot. People had seen it. Some of the people that worked there claimed to have seen this massive 8.5 foot tall animal that looked like a giant ape-like, man-like creature. It was quintessential Bigfoot. He said, so I decided to go out there, and it hadn't hurt anybody, He goes, so I'm out there, and I'm with my business partner and his wife, and I'm with my girlfriend, and we decided to smoke this new strain that we were working on. He's like, and I got really tired. It just got me real, it was an indica. He said, it got me real sleepy, So I was like, well, this is just a sleep aid or something, And so he goes, we were sitting there talking about Bigfoot, and he goes, and I'm laying there looking up at the stars, and that area of Washington's real pretty, And I know where he's at. I've been all over Washington, all over Oregon, been all over everywhere. Did y'all hear? Y'all had
No, I heard that.
Y'all heard that? What is that?
Like a clicking noise.
It's like somebody messing with the door, but there's nobody there. We hear you knocking, but you can't come in. So here's what happens. He's like, we're sitting there. He's like, we're in the back of my friend's truck. He's like, it's me and my friend, and his name is Roger. I actually talked to him. He was cool. He had a Bigfoot encounter. This was right before Roger had his Bigfoot encounter. And Roger's like, they're all laying there in the truck, And he goes, and me and my wife are laying there. That's what Aaron told me. And he said that we hear this crashing brush, through the brush. He goes, I sit up. He goes, and I see this green mist, like fog, like roll in. And I'm going like, what in the hell is that? He's like, and out of this green mist, I see this creature. There's like this thin line of trees right there. And then there's like this little pathway that the workers use. And then behind there's a bunch of more trees. And you can see it going between the trees. There's this giant creature. It comes around the corner. He goes, and it's looking right at me. He goes, and I'm looking right at it. And it's got red eyes. He goes, and it just kind of like, it's kind of hunched over. Like it's kind of like, looks smaller. Then it spreads out and pops its chest open like a werewolves, like you see them howling like that. And he said it did that, and it kind of like howled. He goes, then I turn around, my wife is gone. He goes, Roger and his wife are gone, and it's just me in the back of the truck. And I'm like, holy crap, I must have fallen asleep. And he's like, I'm all alone. And this thing literally just points at him and then runs towards him.
Ugh.
He goes, and right when it gets up onto he goes, I'm just trying to close the tailgate. Now, if you're an Aggie fan, you know, we grew up, all me and my friends, we grew up as Longhorn fans, right? He said, I did a dumb Aggie thing. I like try to close the tailgate. That's his words, folks, not mine, but I stand by that. So he tried to close the tailgate, and this thing jumps up onto the truck and was like, you know, then it opens its mouth, and it's like cartoonishly wide and snapping at him. He's like, and I'm like, I wake up. And he's like, I'm like, whoa, like, what the hell? And his wife was like, are you okay? What's going on? And they're all in the truck, and he goes, 1 minute, his friend told him, he says, 1 minute you were just talking, next minute you were out, and then you just started yelling. And he's like, how long was I asleep? And they were like, 5 or 6 seconds. This whole scenario took like, you know, time.
Yeah.
And he was like 5 or 6
Barely
seconds.
just dozed off.
So he was like, whatever's in this stuff, I'm not smoking this, whatever this is. I don't want none of this. And so he told me, he said, do you think that could have, you know, that was a dream, right? I said, how many times have you seen the same creature? And he said, about a dozen. He's like, it doesn't look the same as the one from Taylor, but it does appear to be a werewolf. I said, what if there is something up there? Now, hear me out, folks. This is what I told him. I said, Aaron, what if there's something up there in that area that's running around? And because you had the encounter with the thing in Taylor, that thing knows. Because it's weird. It's kind of like, we've talked about this before. People will have an encounter with something, and then it opens them up to other encounters with things.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting there too. 2 of the people he worked with, they had a farm about 7-8 miles down the road, and they were growing too. And they were not really competitors; they were friends. He said we were so much smaller than them. We were kind of, at that time, we were kind of contracting for them, and eventually we took over their business. They got out because the guy's wife had gotten sick or something. So he said that these people that were next door to him, you know, the next farm over, that they had multiple UFO encounters. He said none of our workers up to that point had anything. Now he's been doing it for years. He said years later, throughout the year, we had people saying that they had seen Bigfoot and that they had seen UFOs. He's like, but Roger had an encounter with a Bigfoot. He's like, I didn't. He's like, but I did see tracks one time, and you know, when it was wet and it was muddy. And I thought, that is crazy. There is no way that is a normal, you know, whatever. And he had a picture of it. And there was this creature he kept having these encounters with, but it was when he would go to sleep. Now, one time when he was driving, and he goes, I've been up for 2 days, and I had tried some of this new strain we had. He said it went on for like a day and a half. I kept having these weird residuals. It's like being high on acid.
Jeez.
It was so potent. Well, he smoked a lot of it, you know, because it was weird. He goes, it was one of those things where you smoke it and it doesn't do anything. You're like, well, it's not doing it, you know? And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, why did I do this to myself? And then you're just like, I can't, you know. He said a couple of days later, I'm still kind of feeling this body, you know, whatever. He's like, and I'm driving and I see something run across the road like super fast. Like it was. Phew. Now, here's the weird thing. He said it looked white, but it was very large. Where we live now, 2 times I've seen something white that ran across the road on our street. Mm-hmm. And I've said this. And it moves, it's about the size of a large dog. And it moves so fast, you can't, like, I just see it go like that. And you're like, what the hell? Like, what is that? What was that? You know there's something there, right? Well, that's what happened to him. See, there it was again. But that's what happened to him. He goes, it was like this white thing that moved across the road real fast. He goes, and then my wife had seen it. He's like, and so we were having some weird stuff happen. And we had a dream together that was, he claims it's a dream. But she doesn't think it's a dream because they both had the same dream. They were in the dream together. And I'll tell you about it. In this dream, they're in his old house, which she had never been to. She had been by there with him, but never gone inside because other people living there now. He's like, and I wake up, we're in my mother's, the master bedroom. And he goes, a lot of times when my mom would go to work, I would go in there and sleep in her bed and then go out of the bed an hour before she came home because she had a nice bed. And he goes, so I'd stay in there. And then right before she came home, I would run and go get my room. He goes, and then my sister told on me. He goes, but I would go and I would sleep in there. So he goes, I'm going to sleep in my mom's bed with my wife. That sounds weird to say. But he's like, I'm going to sleep in my mom's bed with my wife. And we're laying there. He goes, and this thing taps on the glass. He goes, and my wife gets up and she goes over to the window. And her name is Jessica. And he's like, Jessica, no, don't do it. No, don't do it. And she opens the window and there's this thing standing there looking at her. And it just reaches in and it just grabs her and pulls her out of the window. When she had the same dream that he was having, that's what she did. She heard the tapping on the glass and he wouldn't get up and see what it was. So they thought that it was one of their small children at that time, a small child. It's like our son, right? So she gets up and goes, it could be, our son, we need it. Why are you? And he sits up and goes, Jessica, don't do it. And she's like, opens the curtain, looks back at him. And then all she knows is she feels a pain around her neck and her shoulders. And this thing yanks her and she's being pulled out into the night air. And that's it. And she wakes up. They both wake up. So was that something that was happening to them on the astral plane? What kind of trickery with that? I don't know what that could be.
Yeah, or is it like a communication of intention or what it is? It's weird how these things that they'll, like, once they invade your physical life, they can have a habit of like invading people's dreams or like on the metaphysical plane too.
It's like you're marked.
Yeah, I mean, but either marked or you just see it more. I don't know. Maybe a combination of the two. But I just feel sorry for people whenever it's not enough that they experience seeing something that shouldn't exist, but then within the privacy of their own mind, like there's no refuge there even, and I mean, what is it though? Are they really just bad dreams, or is it an actual spirit communicating intention, or like trying to like mess with them and cause strife and chaos in their homes and create spiritual openings? Like this thing in Taylor, I think it could have been like that person that ran that video. So that weird guy. Well, what was he into?
I think it could be a combination of, obviously you're going to be traumatized seeing something like that and have bad dreams, but also some kind of spiritual attack. I mean, it's not like you can exactly go to a therapist and be like, oh yeah, I saw a werewolf that tried breaking into my house. I mean, it's like you're kind of forced to deal with it. And even, how many people have, shared their experiences with wolf and said, yeah, you're like one of the first people I told because I tried telling my friends and family and they all laughed at me. So they're kind of forced to just carry that terrifying experience just alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I just read that Clyde Lewis, I knew Clyde was in the hospital.
Oh man.
Yeah, his the guy that handles, because
Ground Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy that handles who's got me on as a guest a couple times. His name now. Anyways, he's in my phone.
Is it son-in-law or something?
No, he's got a guy. I'm totally in show mode here. So, anyways, he had posted his guy that does the booking.
Yeah.
And forgive me, I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember his name, but he's the one that got me on the show a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ground Zero. But I thought that his surgery had gone well, that he was recovering. Ron Patton is his name. Ron, my apologies, Ron. I couldn't remember. because, like I said, I'm in show mode right now. But anyways, if we could pray for Clyde Lewis, folks, thank you for the prayers. So, and if anybody is so inclined, like I said, we got things we got to do. We got to get the hoodies for the winter, and then we got to get the food drive that we do every Christmas. Like we didn't do it last Christmas. It was the first year we hadn't done it because we didn't get enough help. But we're going to do it this year, come hell or high water. It's going to happen. So thank you, Debbie, for that donation. The other two people who donated, we appreciate it. But yeah, so before we move on to another encounter here, what do you guys think is going on with that? I thought it was weird how there was this time lapse, like, it started.
Yeah, like missing time.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Jason told me something interesting too. When he moved to East Texas, when he got remarried, there was this ranch out there that they had the wedding at, and they book for venues and stuff like that. And one of the people at the wedding was, and he described this person as, I'm not gonna say too much, but one of his wife's relatives, one of the in-laws, is kind of an unruly person. Insisted on using the bathroom outside. He goes, we had facilities, and he goes and urinates by the tree line.
Lovely.
And he said, yeah, and there were people around. And he said, about an hour later, because he had been chastised and told not to do that. This rancher that whose family once owned that land, and now it belonged to some kind of investment company or something. And they had made it into like a venue thing where they book venues and stuff. I know the name. I'm not gonna say the name of it, but because it used to be part of a very large ranch, and that guy his family used to own. They sold it to that company, but now he was kind of like not the caretaker. I wouldn't call him that. He was the what did Jason say he was? Like he was managing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a few animals there that were just for looks. You know what I mean? Like people go, oh, we could take pictures with these docile steer and some goats, and these animals were in no fear of being anybody's meal. But that old rancher told him, that cowboy, he was on a horse, and he told him, he said, son, don't be going and peeing over there by that tree line again. And the guy was just like, oh, yeah, And that guy told him, he goes, there's a reason that you shouldn't be messing around over that area right there. Later on in the evening, he's like, I was a little tipsy, it was his wedding reception. He goes, and then I was talking to this old cowboy, and I says, what is it about that tree line over there or whatever? And he says, this ranch is haunted. He said, and this guy, he said he looked older than the hills out there, And he told him, he says, what do you mean? He goes, well, there's some weird things out here. And he said, if you disrespect this place, things happen. So he thought that was kind of odd. And then when him and his wife were pulling out, he's like, we see something. This is Jason. Standing, it looked like it was a brownish fur type creature. He couldn't make out what it was. It could have been Bigfoot. It could have been Dogman. He didn't know what it was. But it was like a humanoid shaped creature, and it was standing there by one of the trees. And he's like, my son, from my previous marriage was like, Dad, look at that. And they pulled out real quick, and they looked. And he said, but somebody pulling out behind us had to have seen it, because it moved. And he goes, but we never did, whatever. And he goes, and I was just sober enough to drive at that point, And so he goes, and I didn't try to pay attention to what it was. Then they're driving home, which is about an hour away. And his wife tells him, she's like, that old rancher here, him and his wife were telling stories. And they were talking about a creature that roams around in those woods right there where my cousin was deciding to relieve himself. And the creature sounded like something like what you saw when you were young. Would you were at your friend Aaron's house? So anyways, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, did you get any details? And she's like, not really, just that he had seen it one time, in those woods, and that at one time, they think that there might have been more than one because their livestock, they had a whole bunch of chickens there. They had cows, and one year their livestock got decimated by these things, and the way he described them, he said that they were like wolves that could stand up on their hind legs. And one of the people that was there that's related to his wife was like, you mean a werewolf? And he goes, if you want to call it that, but that's what they look like. And somebody chuckled, and that old man said, see, that's why we don't talk about it. He goes, just stay away from those woods. And so everybody did, except for her one cousin. Nothing happened to him, but, Yeah, and so whenever you discuss this with people, there's always some joker that's going to make a joke, going to laugh or say something stupid or whatever. And that's the thing that aggravates people. You got enough problems as it is with, trying to convince somebody that these things are real, but then you have people that want to laugh about it and make it into a ha-ha thing, And there are even people in my hometown, even with all the other people who've seen these things and have had encounters, that will laugh or make a joke out of it because it didn't happen to them.
Sure.
And guarantee you they know somebody who did, or they have relatives who did, and they'll still just kind of sit there and make it into like a goofy whatever. So before we move on, anybody got any questions? Anybody from the audience here? What do we have in the comments section? Amy Creel says something interesting there. Cattle and horses will keep your pastures from growing into thickets. If you have unused pasture, help a local rancher out and offer them grazing season. Yep. Wow. Bluestone says something interesting. Read that, Anthony.
I know of a similar story with Henry Groover on the Steve Quayle show. He and 5 others had the same dream. It's not uncommon.
Christina says she's been missing because of the weather changes and getting sick. Yeah, one of the things too, I can say this. Last week we had so many. Last month, we just or this past month, it's been hard to get on track because we've had a lot of stuff to deal with. Let's put it that way. Between work and doctor's appointments, things like that. We've got a lot to do. A lot going on, but we're going to try and get back on track this month for sure. Thank you, Marjorie. She said, I was up late last night with Josh and Sparky and the PRT gang. It was a great show. We had a great show. Really enjoyed the stories that were told from MC and Conrad.
Oh, did Jason and Aaron ever run back into that guy that ran the video store?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. There was never any kind of anything, because I asked that. I was like, did anything ever happen, with them? And they were just like, we just didn't go in there.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron did, because he wanted to argue with the guy, but he's a weird guy. I mean, he's my friend. I mean, we're not like best friends. We haven't talked in, a whole lot over the year, but we've stayed in touch. Like, it's one of those people you talk to them every couple of years or something.
Yeah.
You just pick up where you left off. I mean,
arguments with.
He'll argue with me. I'll smack his little ass, man. Nah, he's cool.
So
No, he's not really the same way when he was young. He's not that same way. He's very business minded, and he's very like serious about what he does, but he's not. He grew out of all that, man. That's the thing. Some people when they're kids, they're that same way when they're adults.
yeah,
They're the little turd kid, if they're a little fat.
they never
kid,
grow out of it.
They never grew out of being a spoiled little fat kid.
And some people
He's
like
not like
Maddie
that.
just stay a kid forever.
Only in size.
Wow.
Wait, so
What's wrong with you? Why are you the way you are?
Tony's racist against short people.
I am.
He's racist against short people.
Sorry, I just can't see your problems. They're so below me.
So how did his mom react? Probably
To the
coming
broken
home
window.
to all that mess.
Well, here's what happened with the police and everything else. Let's talk about that because it's not a whole lot to it, but they took a report and we're like, well,
I don't know what we can do here.
nothing was there.
Yeah.
I mean, they could see someone tried to break in, but they're like, oh, no.
Yeah, his mother thought she never believed the story about the werewolf. She just thought it was an untrue, like somebody tried to break in.
Mm.
Can't blame her,
Yeah.
especially when your son is the way he is. She thought that it was somebody that he had pissed off.
Oh, of course.
Even she was like, all right.
Because even years later, because I told her, we went to go eat. There was this place in my hometown it's still there now. It's like this buffet place, whatever. And so we went to go eat there one time, and I was still 15. It was probably like December of 90, like a couple of months after what happened to me.
Mhm.
And Aaron was like, tell my mom what happened. And I didn't really it was weird because I didn't immediately go around trying to collect stories about what happened to people. That wasn't until later on. I was like 17. And by that point, I hadn't talked to them. I was told the story one time and I hadn't talked to them again about it. I just said, well, there it is. And then, of course, there were friends who, in my book, 3 of my friends who I'm still friends with to this day, who were walking by Hidalgo Park, and these 3 dog-like, wolf-like creatures came across the road, and one of them, they were speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of them stood up and walked like a man and smiled at him and scared the living crap.
Yeah.
You're talking about 11-year-old kids. That happened when we were young, though. And when I heard that story, I was just like, as a kid, I was like, really? It was always kind of in the back of my mind, but nothing happened to me. I mean, I even remember when we were kids, I went to St. Mary's Cemetery and just walked around the graves with a bunch of friends. And I was 13. I mean, you hear all these creepy stories and stuff. I didn't think nothing of it. I still snuck out of the house and did all kinds of crap. But after what I saw when I was 15, that shit stopped. I was like, if I'm not with a group of friends, like a bunch of us, I'm not walking around by myself at night. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
not happening, dude. And I was like, and you've met Daniel, and he's told you, Tony,
Plenty of times.
and he's told that story to y'all. And it just became like, we're not going out walking around by ourselves. Now, Daniel went through a short period where he got into drugs. Now, he was never strung out or anything like that, but I'm not going to say anything bad, but I think it was somebody he was dating. So he had to walk one time to go to this dude's house, and he saw something weird. And it wasn't a werewolf or anything like that. It was a man who he thinks it was a man that was possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the guy was running around by the sanitarium, right? And he came running around from behind the building on all 4s and then got up and ran at him, and the guy's eyes were going green. And Daniel was like, said something to him, and the guy stopped and went away. And it turned that, to me, I think was the turning point in his life, because he had gotten back, he had become a Christian after the thing what happened to us, but he backslid, and it was, into drugs or whatever, and then he said that was it. He walked back home. He said, "I'm not doing this," because he believed that was like a wake up call. Now, could that have been somebody that was a potential? I don't know. You wonder that. There's some weird thing. I've been told some weird stories from that town. At one time in the 80s, during the Satanic Panic, we were on like TV. Like they were like talking, like John Stossel, whatever, was talking about this is an innocuous town in Taylor. It was like satanic people, And one of my uncle's barns on this bottom land that he had, that's the one across the road. Oh. They sold that piece, years ago. But he went in there, and the barn hadn't been used in a while. It was a dilapidated barn, and they had burned candles in there. He thought it was like kids or something, who knows? But there were like pentagrams and stuff. And there was some weird stuff there. Now, that house where those people had that donkey, years and years ago, there was I couldn't verify this, but I haven't really tried too much either. But there was this little donkey, supposedly, that had gotten attacked by something, and they found it floating in the pond. Wow. Yeah, and I know it disappeared. I don't know what, but one of the people I went to high school with told me, because that was their cousins. I think he was his great uncle or something like that. But he goes, yeah, the donkey was chewed up, tore up, something had gotten it. That happened quite a bit. People would find their cats, either had disappeared or they would be chewed up. One guy found a coyote hanging up in a tree right there, and he was going to work. He looks up, and there's a coyote hanging from a tree branch. Weird stuff like that. I got so many stories like that. Another person had like 12 chickens that were all chewed up and eaten, in like one night. And it was like whatever it was just walked up and opened the chicken coop. And there were these big, massive wolf-like prints, but they were two-legged. And they looked like something between a man and a wolf. And, of course, the stories were always – and, of course, there is the testimony of the police officer who's, when he retired, who told me at the barbecue cook-off, it was me and one of my guys that worked for me. And, of course, Scorpion. I don't know if Scorpion's in the chat. Is he in the chat?
He was.
But Scorpion was there, and this guy told us, that in the 60s, when he was a young cop, that there was what he believed was a series of murders that they did not report as murders, that they were rail riders or hobos. Mm. And that the county told them, hey, man, this didn't happen here. It happened in another county. When the trains came in, they were just there. So that's how they wrote it up. But he said one of these people looked like they'd been put through a blender. Oh. Yeah. Another one of my friends whose grandmother, and he was one of the people who was walking his bike that day that saw the 3 dog-like, wolf-like creatures, whatever. Thank you for the donation. We appreciate it. It's all going toward the food drive in December. And when this thing jumped across the road, like he was terrified, He told, I played football with this guy. He told his grandmother, who was, they were black. And she said, that's the haint, Called them haints. That was the term that they used. And my friend Theo, who lived out in the country, I'm talking about, he's a goofball. He said, I don't go to the city, man. Every time I go to the city, I got to go to the doctor. He tell me something I don't want to hear, like, you got diabetes. I won't be having diabetes if I didn't go to the city. I'm like, Theo, I don't think that's how it works. I think you got it. And then, I don't know, that's why I don't go to the city. Right, Anthony? Theo? Yeah. He was at the feed store one day, and I saw him. I said, hey. He said, it's the only reason I come to town, get the feed. We don't play around in town. I don't want to see none of this weird stuff over here. Probably see a vampire or something up.
Yeah, everything bad comes from the city.
Everything bad comes from, that's right. But, he my friend Eli's like that too. He lives out there on the other side of Thorndale, whatever. He would do the same thing. If you catch him in town, it's a mystical, magical occasion. They're not going to be in town. They're like, don't want to go to town. You don't want to get it on you. You know,
You won't catch it.
Eli was talking about, I took my kids to the parade. It's over. Let's go. It's like, go straight back out to the country. We ain't gonna be over here. We ain't gonna be this weird town with this weird stuff. You know, nothing gonna Gravity Falls over here. Okay, it's not gonna happen. But I look at that situation though, like what his grandmother saw. I can't even watch that Transformers movie without thinking about it because there's that scene. Which Transformers is it? Thank you for that donation. We appreciate that. There's a scene where Optimus Prime it's the one with Mark Wahlberg because they filmed it in my hometown.
Yeah.
They filmed a lot of movies around my hometown.
Fourth one or something.
Yeah.
The
fourth one. And Optimus is fighting with that bounty hunter, you know, and Mark Wahlberg is there. And they show that building right there, which is literally right there next to Taylor Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that is literally where this Dogman creature has been seen like a few times. And I always thought that old factory used to be some I don't know what it made something stupid like pencils or something. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Like it was
I always
something.
wondered what it was.
Yeah, it was something stupid like from the 50s and 40s something.
And it's weird because they still do the upkeep on that building, but
there's nothing in it.
Yeah. And
you'll see a van in there every now and then.
Yeah.
And remember, I tried to ask that guy what they were doing there.
Mm-hmm.
He ignored me. He acted like a robot. I was like, whatever, dude. I don't know what they're doing in there. Who knows? But anyways, every time I see that movie, I'm thinking, and I've seen it a couple times, and I'm like, yeah, that's so weird to look because that's where that shit happened, you know. And but his grandmother, and I'll tell that one real quick. It's not real long, you know. I've already told it before, but she was walking to Taylor Cafe, and right there underneath the railroad, but it's by the railroad tracks underneath the bridge. We need to go out and just go around Taylor and video these places. Or Chewy, what happened to him is not far from Taylor Cafe, right there by those woods, right there. And he saw that massive creature. And he's another person. He's a friend of mine's little cousin. And I don't know Chewy that well, but I know his cousin Jaime. And so, anyways, this guy was laying there drunk, you know, just a hobo, as we called him back in the day. And they would come in on these railroads. And the reason that the railroad interchange was so prevalent there is because of the cotton industry. So during the cotton season, the cotton gins would be going full blast, and there would be cotton all over the roads.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like snow.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it the black land. It's that black soil. You know, they call it cotton land, black land. That black soil, it's real, you know, good for growing cotton. And so, anyways, my friend's grandmother was walking, and she sees this big guy, you know, big burly guy with this kind of like overcoat, whatever, underneath with a red jacket. She said it was like underneath the railroad, like he was asleep. And she thought, man, this man's gonna get run over if they hook that cart up and, you know, move it. But you don't want to mess with people, especially on the line. Back then, it was bad, real bad down there. Fort Hood soldiers would go down there, and people were always getting stabbed and whatever. It was real bad. And we were told, always stay away from the line. You know, there's a bunch of crack houses and stuff. They leveled them all to get rid of all the crack dealers. So she was on there to get some barbecue from Taylor Cafe. And she was in there for a little bit talking to everybody, you know, and then she walks back out. Because, you know, even though, like we talked about it before, how the white people sat in one area, Mexican people sat in another area, black people sat in another area. Everybody got along.
Yeah.
You know, my grandfather was cut up real bad leaving that place, going out the back one time. And the guys that cut him up, it was a mistake. They were looking for another dude. And my grandfather never forgave the guy that owned it. He always thought that Myers had set him up, you know, because he told him to go out the back instead of going out the front. He had to go around, and those guys jumped him, and he had these big scars. And I can't remember the guy's name. There's a little Hispanic guy that helped my grandfather, and he got cut up real bad. He was your grandfather's best friend, that guy that got cut up real bad on your dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad could tell you what his name was, but they cut him real bad. And my grandfather nearly died. My grandfather was also shot and wounded in World War II. And he also had a hole right here where he had been stabbed by a bayonet. So he was, my grandfather was a bad dude. He'd been shot 3 times, twice in the same battle and war. And the bayonet wound, he had gotten leave, and then they said, "Okay, you're good. You can go back." His shoulder, his pec healed, whatever. Then he was shot twice, and then that's when they, whatever. But they were superficial wounds, like he didn't, And then he was shot by a police officer in Thorndale, which to this day, that guy had no right to do that. He was holding my sister when he was shot, if you could believe that. And it was because the guy said he was flirting with his wife. That's what everybody believed.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy said that my grandfather was going at it. My grandfather was holding my sister. Could have killed a child.
Huh.
And this small town, Texas, full of shit, full of
Crazies.
full of redneck ass people that get away with stuff, I mean, nowadays it would be just like a big deal. But back then they're like, oh, that's just what's his name, old dumb redneck hillbilly guy, whatever.
Rough people.
Very rough. And so, anyways, that place, so it was, everybody knew everybody, and everybody got along for the most part. Those guys that cut my grandfather up, my grandfather referred to them as Bohemians. They were some Czech guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then some people would say the Germans, they would call them Dutchmen. And I'm like, they're not Dutch, dude. They're Deutschen, not Dutchen, whatever. But it's just this ignorant, small town mentality.
Potato.
But anyway, this lady, she goes in and she comes back out, and where this guy was sitting there sleeping looked like a giant wolf wearing his clothes. I kid you not. I was a kid, and we were having like a crawfish cook-off, crawdads. And I was over there, and I was like, I never really liked crawdads. It takes 100 of them you got to take 100 lives to get full.
Yeah.
And you got to sit there and mess with them, But anyway, I was at my friends, and they were frying catfish. And we were all outside, And this is in the black neighborhood, but I played balls. I knew all these dudes, man. They didn't mess with me. And we were out there, and I just remember her talking about that story, when and then my friend, that I'm not gonna say his name on here. But yeah, that whole thing came up about the thing jumping across the road, and she talked about what she saw. And there were a couple other people telling stories, because at that time I was like 14, maybe the year, because I was not really interested in it or really grasping it, I was like, oh, it's kind of a passing, it's interesting, whatever, but not until what happened to me. And then it became like, okay, now this is like, real to me. And I remember when I was with my friend Theo, and he's black, and we were out there, and his grandma said the same thing. There's haints down there in that holler. Don't be down there in that holler. And I watched her take a switch to his ass. And me and Randy were sitting there going, like, oh, he's getting his ass whooped, man. And she's like, if y'all was my youngins, I'd whoop you too. Y'all, why y'all? And I was like, well, he took us down there. And she's like, yeah, because he's a fool who don't listen to his grandma. I'm like, oh, yeah, listen to your grandma. I was like, whoop his ass. Kick his ass, Seabass. I'm not involved in this. But we heard something that day. Like something was down there. And his grandma, who was half blind, she knew. She had the ojo, as the Mexicans would say. She's one of those old black women who's kind of witchy.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens to you. She goes, oh, I got some persimmon cypress something or another that'll go on that.
Yeah, some kind of concoction.
Some kind of salve mixed with possum ass, and it'll get rid of whatever you got. You'll see. That's how I see. I put it in my eyes every day. And she would talk, and she would smoke a corncob pipe and dip powdered Levi snuff. Not Levi, the Garrett snuff.
Mm-hmm. It's old school.
And she'd be smoking from the pipe, and the nicotine was her thing, And then every once in a while, she'd go outside. She's like, I'm going to smoke one of my cool super longs. She'd smoke one a day. And I remember she'd go, Theo, take the Chrysler, go get me some cools. It's been about 2 weeks. It's about time. And she'd give some money, and to her, it was like, she was just, here's $1. Get yourself something nice. I'm like,
wow.
I will get me a Snickers bar. And so we would go to the store or whatever, and we always took too long because Theo would go run around. I'm gonna go holler at this girl. I'm like, man, your grandma's gonna holler at your ass, dude. Because first of all, we're too young to be driving. But not. We all drove though. Like my dad would go to Randy's ice house and be like, you drive. I'm like, I'm 11, stick shift, no problem. We got to go 22 miles. What's up? What's up? And my dad would just be like, you're a good kid. I was just whatever. Your mom makes me sick. I'm like, what? Just keep driving. I looked at it like it is what it is. But he would always try to detour off, or whatever. And then we would end up going places we shouldn't be, and his grandma would get on to us. But I remember she would not whoop him for that, but she whooped him bad when he went out to that holler because whatever was down there to her was deadly. And she described these creatures, which was pretty much what I had seen, And then going out toward Copeland, there's this area out there. There's a holler out there on the other side of the school where everybody says, hey, there's something that's down there, And so we have another story here. Now, this one comes from a friend of mine who's now deceased. He told me this one a long time ago. And then he told me again 6-7 months ago before his liver was getting sick. And I thought I would tell this story. He, once again, he was 15. He's a year younger than me. He went to school with these other guys. And wait. Is he younger than me? No, I'm wrong. He's my age. He would be my age, right? But anyways, the thing is, because I went to like 4 different high schools and like 3 different middle schools. No, not joking. And like 4 different elementaries. But I made friends in all of those towns. And with Taylor, it was like back and forth. I went back to Austin, came back to Taylor. Went to Rockdale, came back to Taylor. Always ended back in Taylor. So we grew up, but I had like so many friends, and I still do. I have a ton of friends. Every time we go somewhere in Taylor, we run into somebody like Joe Anthony at the HEB, and we run into people. And they always got stories to tell. Always got some weird stuff going on. This guy here, we were in advanced placement classes together, so it really didn't matter like what your grade was. So he was in a grade. I think he was in a grade younger than me, and then he was really smart. He ended up moving up. And so we ended up being in advanced placements classes together. By my senior year, I only had like 1 class because I was so far ahead. So that was kind of weird, kind of unusual. But I still went to school. I only had half a day in my senior year. Then I had to go back because it sucked. I could go home. Then you got to go back because you got football practice. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I get to go home for a couple of hours and then go back to, be yelled and screamed at and told to run a bunch of stuff, and you're useless unless you win. Because Texas is about football. I mean, if you don't win, we don't pick you up. You played a shitty game, all of you.
Walk back from West.
They literally interviewed our coach one time. We lost in the playoffs, and they're like, "What do you think about your team's execution?" He goes, "I'm all for it." That was John McKay of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was not a coach. Coach but he was that kind of coach. He didn't care. You didn't like. He was. You're supposed to win, and win. If you don't win, you suck. And for a week, you just suck until you win again. Anyways, this guy was a good friend of mine, and he told me this story. He had snuck out of his house when he was 15, and because his parents were pretty strict. He was a CCD with me too. They were real Catholics. Mm-hmm. Like they believed in all the candles and all that.
Yeah.
Like you had to light candles to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had to go to the bathroom at night, light a candle.
Yeah.
And not because you were praying to a saint or anything like that, because they didn't have electricity. Because the priest told them not to. I'm joking. No. So what happens is he sneaks out, and he's actually dating my cousin. So he snuck out to go and get a ride with an older friend of ours who took him out there to go and talk outside with my cousin or whatever, and his friend is our mutual friend was just there, and he's like, dude, you're taking a lot of chances, man, just to go and see this girl. But he really liked her, and he ends up going back home, like to walk back home, whatever. And he's like, dude, it was the weirdest thing. He's like, I got really, really tired. It was like 4 a.m. and I would walk across the hiking bike to go back to my house, and I would sneak in. He's like, and I lived on the, the second, he lived in a nice 2-story house. He was Hispanic, but he lived in the nice neighborhood. And so he had a ladder that he would get, and he would put it, and he would climb up it and then push it, out of the way, wake up in the morning and move it. Because if you threw it, in his own words, if you push it, it would fall and you'd wake up his dad. So he would climb up into his room. And his brother was kind of like a snitch, would tell on him. So his little brother, he would bribe him, like with candy or whatever. And so he's like, dude, so I would my little brother would turn the light on for me in the back porch, and I would go up, and he's like, and this went on and on. He goes, and one night I come home, it's 4 a.m, dude, and it's a school night. I usually did it on the weekend. He's like, and I don't know what made me not be able to walk home. He goes, I just sat down and I was like, I'm tired. I'm so sleepy. He goes, and just this nice grass, or, the hiking bike was very well taken care of at one time,
It was nice.
And it was right there, get this, right there from the previous story, where the water was kind of, the little stream was flowing underneath the bridge right there. And we'll go to Taylor. We'll do some video.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it. We're going to show you these spots. I'll take you to where this guy went. And he decided to lay down. We'll call him Ray. Ray lays down, and he was like, he goes, it was like this overwhelming, like I couldn't, he's like, I could literally see my house, but I couldn't take another step. I was just overcome with tiredness. He's like, and it was a little disconcerting because, I mean, what's wrong with me? Why can't I not walk another step? So he finds a nice place to sleep. He goes, and it was 3 or 4 a.m. You don't remember which. And he thought, I'll just take a quick nap and then I'll be okay. Maybe it's just been a hard day because I had a lot of homework, and I was, we were, like I said, we were in advanced placement classes. He laid down on that green spot right there, and you could hear the creek moving, flowing. Not my personal choice where I would want to lay down, no matter how tired I got, because it's right there with that thing under that bridge. And there's another story that I know that when I was a kid, people talked about seeing something with red eyes underneath there. I don't know. He wakes up, and he looks at his watch, because back then we had to tell time by watches. And he looks at his watch and he's like, it's 5:15 in the morning. You could hear cars going on the road, whatever. He turns to get up to go to whatever. And he's like, immediately, like this memory of what had just happened, like hit him like a ton of bricks. When he was laying there, and he had just fallen asleep, he woke up maybe 10, 15 minutes after he had first closed his eyes. And what was weird is like, he didn't remember it. Like it's like it didn't happen until he woke up again. So that's a weird thing. He wakes up and he looks and he sees these black, like, he couldn't tell me what it was. It just looked like black pillars, like, one right next to the other. And he's like, and I go and I touch him and it moves. And he goes, oh, and he looks up and he's like, and I'm out of it. I'm really tired. He goes, cross-eyed tired. Looks up and he sees this thing. The feet on this thing did not look like a wolf. It didn't look like, the feeling of this thing felt like a hoof. And he says, I look up and I couldn't see a face. It was so tall. He goes, it was just like a black mass that was humanoidal in shape. He goes, and there was this hand, because I saw it like kind of move like this. And there was this jacket on this thing, like a duster almost. And he said, I could see the head. And he goes, and it looked like it was like a cowboy, but it had glowing red eyes. And the face, when it was looking down, it had something protruding from its face, not unlike a snout, but he couldn't be for certain. And it was looking down at him. There were no horns or anything like that, but it was like there was a hat on it, like a hat man, but it was all black. And it was just like a duster. And and I told him, I said, so, Ray, what about was it like a boot? He said, it wasn't a boot. He's like, there were no feet. It was just like a pillar, it was weird, and it had like you couldn't see anything, but like there was this, And there was space between the legs, so you could see that these were legs, but it was like a hoof. And he said that, and he said that he could see a hand kind of like move, like the something on his chest, and it was looking down at him. And he goes, and then it just stepped over me and began to walk away. And he's like, I watched it walk away, like, and he goes, and you're not going to fall asleep when something like this happens. But he went right back to sleep. And then he woke up and he was like, oh, it's like 5:15. And then when he's starting to get up, he's like, whoa. He remembers what he had seen and what had just happened to him, which wasn't but like maybe an hour and a half before. And he was just like, holy crap. So he ran to his house. To this day, or I say to this day he's deceased, but like he just passed away recently. For years, when that would kind of come up in conversation or whatever, his story never changed. And I just wanted to reiterate it, and so I talked to him several months ago and I asked him to retell that to me to make sure that I was hearing it correctly, because a lot of times when we would hang out, we'd be drinking and partying and stuff. And then people tell you a story and you might commit it to memory, you might not. So we're at the bar, and he's telling the story. So my brother heard this story, and Scorpion did too, and a bunch of other people. But, when you have something like that happen to you, like I said, it's just interesting. You're not going to go, oh, well, that just happened. I'm going to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So something completely supernatural was taking place there to make him just fall right back into, dreamland. So I don't know, man. I mean, what that was and what it could be, I don't know. His estimates were the thing was about 8 feet tall.
But he said that he saw like 4 of those black pillars.
No,
just 2. Oh,
Two.
okay.
Where are you getting 4 from?
You can't count.
I don't know.
So there were 4. Yeah, 4 pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Minus 2, my friend. No, but there was 2, but the hooves, the duster, and the cowboy hat. I was like, you saw Jeepers Creepers? But no, it didn't look like that because he couldn't see the face. It was just black, and it didn't do anything to him. It just walked over him and kept going. What's interesting though is like when he woke up and he was didn't know what he was looking at. He touched it, and it pulled back. He's lucky it didn't kick him or do something else. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
I think it got whatever it wanted because I don't think that he just randomly got tired while walking. It was like, oh, time for me to go to bed real quick. I think like that was purpose.
Well, to what end though?
I don't know. I mean, obviously some kind of end, but I mean, there's no way to know because he was asleep. But it's obviously that it was trying to get something out of him.
Do these things always want something out of us though, or like, did we just happen to be like there? I mean, like what? Because I question that. Like, why do they always have to have like, or do they really always have to have some kind of like specific interest in getting motive from us, or are they just there and we just happen to be there too?
Okay, but like I can understand it if it was like I was, you go to sleep at a riverbank and then like you wake up and in the river you see something swimming down. That's just there swimming down the river. This thing was right in front of him. It was near him, close enough for him to reach out and touch it. And then it just walks over him, walks away, and it's like, oh,
yeah, that is weird.
It doesn't want anything to do with him. Come on now, like it was there for him for a reason. It was just probably done, or like it didn't. Maybe he wasn't what it was really looking for, so he just moved on.
Yeah, I mean, look at what PG says. It drained him.
Yeah.
Because the next day, he said actually what he told me was for a couple of days, he felt out of it. Like he was tired and drained. He doesn't recall having a bunch of weird dreams about it though. So I don't know. But that was his story. And, and he had another weird thing happen too. His house, I remember there was a school dance or something. And then afterwards we had like a little party there. And his mom and dad left his aunt in charge, and they had gone to the casino like in Louisiana or something. And his aunt was like, she's like in her 20s, right? And we're like teenagers, and she's like, well, sure, we'll buy you beer. So I just remember that party being like really crazy. Nothing happened to me there, but like a couple of my friends, in fact, the guy that I introduced you to at HEB, my friend, you had heard about him before, but when I introduced you to him, he was one of the people at that party who claimed some weird stuff happened. So I guess some kids started like playing around with a Ouija board, which is like something that happens, sometimes. I was already gone. I had left. And I can't remember what dance it was or what it was, because we had like this fall dance and then we had prom, shit like that. But like, I just remember there was like something that happened there, and some kids were playing with a Ouija board. And I remember his aunt, who was pretty wild. She's like 24, and I guess that's like old to you if you're like 16. Like she's like 24 years old. She's like 8 years older than me, Woo.
She's ancient.
She's an ancient one. But her and her boyfriend, who was pretty crazy too, he was friends with my sister's boyfriend, and they brought like booze and stuff. And so these kids are getting drunk, and they're like, "Don't drive drunk." Like nobody really cares, right? So I remember we went that like they played with the Ouija board, right? But then after that, there was weird crap at that house because me and him were on the same baseball team together in like Babe Ruth League. We had like the Babe Ruth League, which is like older. It's like I think it's Little League, Pony Colt, Babe Ruth, whatever. So we were in Babe Ruth League together, and we had a good team that year. And I remember we went and we got pizza, and his dad got us pizza or whatever. And I remember going to his house, and one of my friends that was with me, he said something about the house. Like he said, "Man, this house is haunted," because they were like really close. Him and that other guy, they were like best friends or whatever. And I didn't really hang out with them all the time. Hold on 1 second. So I didn't really hang out with them all the time, but that year we played baseball together, and I didn't have my license yet, and his friend did. He was a little older than us, and so he had his license, and he was like he would drive us, whatever. And I remember I didn't get my license until I was 17. Like I should have gotten it. I was driving illegally. Like I don't care. Admit it. I'm a freaking criminal. I drive. They're gonna clip that. Oh, he's a criminal.
Lock him up.
We got him.
But
this thing is over.
Yeah, it's over now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
So I was like, driving, but 16 years old, and I said I didn't have my license or whatever, and you know what? That's not correct. I did have my license when I was 16. I was 16 going on 17 when I got it. And 17 when I got my first car. Sorry about that. 17 for something else too, but I'm not going to get into that. So anyways, I was there at the house, and I remember our friend. I guess I could say his name's Morgan, but Morgan was like, "Is your house still haunted?" Like he comes out of the bathroom, and Ray was like, "What?" And he's like, "You know what I'm talking about." He goes, "When they were playing with the Ouija board," he goes, "I don't want to talk about it." Like you could tell that it disturbed him. Like he did not want to talk about it. So one day when we were all in Austin, like years later, we were drinking and we were telling stories about the weird, creepy stuff downtown, right? And this guy told us the story of what had happened to him, at the hike and bike, and I'd heard it before. I didn't really pay attention at that time, like I was younger. And then I remember us talking about, I said, well, what was Morgan talking about? Your house was haunted. Because I remember we were over there after baseball practice one day, and I was waiting for my dad to give me a ride to pick me up. And he goes, "Oh, I didn't like to talk about it, man." He goes, "But remember that big party we had? It was a rager, like the police came and told everybody, okay, oh shit, it's the cops, It's like they came and just shut it down, And he goes, "You remember my aunt, right?" I said, "Yeah, she's the crazy one. She bought everybody booze, whatever, she got in trouble. Something happened, like she got in trouble." But I remember because it was Williamson County, and everybody was like, "Oh, Williamson County, if you sneeze, they'll arrest you." So it was supposed to be hard on crime. they wanted to be known as the toughest county in Texas, if not the country, right? So everything was a big whatever to do. And I remember we were talking about that. He said after that party, because there were some kids that were playing the Ouija board, and I said, yeah, I heard about it in school, but I didn't follow up on it. He said, dude, there was something in our house. And at one point, because his house was right there by the hiking bike, he said at one point, he goes, I was sitting in my room playing video games. I was on the phone with this girl I used to date, Carlita. And he's like, and I was talking to Carlita, and he's like, and this was after him and my cousin had broken up. But then they got back together because they were always back and forth. And he said, I was on the phone with Carlita. He goes, and I hear this weird noise, crackling noise on the phone, and then a screech. And then he goes, I pulled my ear away from the phone. And back then, we had to actually put our phone to the ear because, most people had just like a cordless phone was like, you were highfalutin. You could walk like 10 feet from your house and have the cordless phone. You're like, yeah, I'm on a cordless phone, man. I'm outside, or you had to have a really, really long cord like some of my cousins. And then you could walk outside like 20, 30 feet with a cord dragging behind you. And then they thought they were really doing something. They were pimping. So this is the old days, right? This is Gen X. And so he says, I stand up for some reason. He goes, I was just like, I pulled the phone away. He goes, and I just looked out the window and I see this thing floating from across my backyard. It had come out of the back screen door, right? He goes, my window was open. It was in the spring, and it was nice and cool. It wasn't hot or anything. He's like, and this thing was floating across my yard and it looked like the Grim Reaper, the way he described it. And then it just floated through the fence and was going off to the hiking bike. He goes, and it turned to left. It started going like it was headed, underneath that bridge. And he goes, and it just kind of faded away. Of course, he couldn't see. He always had Coke bottle glasses. He's like, I couldn't see where it went, And I was like, I guess you're blind. But, I mean, he saw some weird stuff. Another time, this came from Adam. Adam, a good friend of mine. And he's one of my brothers. We've been friends for years. Adam said we were over there and we were drinking. We were playing quarters. And Daniel was there, the guy that I saw the Dogman with. And they all saw this black mass like go floating up the stairs. Just like a mass, there was like not all in one piece. It was just kind of like, like a black cloud just float up the stairs. And dude, it scared the hell out of people, man. Like, what is that? And then still his sister one time when she was combing her hair, brushing her hair out one morning to get ready to go to school, she screamed because she saw this, what looked like an old hag, like standing behind her in the mirror and it had no eyes. Yeah. And so that was creepy. And then another time, I remember these stories he was telling me. Like I said, I just talked to him, a little while back. Another thing that happened at his house was he was taking a shower. He goes, and I was in a hurry. I was getting ready to go to school. Same thing. He goes, and I reached for a towel, and I touched a hand. Like he reached out and touched a freaking hand. And he was like, oh, and he pulled back and yanked the shower curtain. And he's like, there's nothing there, But that all started when they played with the Ouija board because that was a new build. Yeah. You remember those houses that they were built right before you were born, back in the mid to late 80s. And there was nothing there. And so they built these houses and then all of a sudden his house is haunted. Well, that's because of that Ouija board. Yeah. Yeah, because one of the girls that happened to, the Ouija board thing, she claimed to have been choked in her bed. Something choked her later not that night, but later in the week. And she was one of the people that was playing with it, messing with the planchette and all that. So who knows, man? There are doorways. There you go. And when you open them, dude, all hell breaks loose. So that's pretty much it right there. And there's a whole bunch of other stories. As we say in Texas, there's still plenty of meat on the bone.
Yeah, that area of Taylor's always been strange, especially at night. I like that area around the hiking bike. Because isn't that where you said that you and your friend, y'all heard that cat speak?
That was James.
Yeah.
The one I was talking about
is right there at the hiking bike, right?
I'll say his name on here. His name is James Kahanic. I mean, he's been friends of mine forever. All these people, all these people. Yeah. Well, you might know some of them, Tony. I know a lot. Yeah. But, and here again, because I grew up with these guys when we were little children, but, every friend of mine is just a future enemy and I'm just waiting to strike.
Well, you should have been
Like I
waiting a long
told Jeff
time.
Martin the other day, he came over and I said, Jeff, he says we were 10 years old. He was 9, I was 10 when we met. No, he was 8 and I was 9. So how many years is that? I'm playing the long game here. 41 years, Jeff. But I'm still going to stab you in the back. At some point, I'm going to get you.
Any day now.
That knife is going to be in your back. You too, all of y'all. Every one of you I talked about. Adam, you too. Even though Adam and me been knowing each other since we were in short pants.
It's like one long prank, except the prank is that you're a nice guy.
In fact, Adam and me went to preschool together. So Adam and Heather, two of my oldest friends, because I knew them since birth, since we were babies. But 50 years ain't nothing. I'm just gonna one day that knife is gonna come, and you will know. You'll be like, villain, villain, you got me.
How did I not see this coming?
50 years. You did it. You waited 50 years. It's a very tiny knife, but it's gonna, it'll do the job.
It's more like a letter opener.
Yeah, just because remember that. Everybody's a future enemy. That's why I got friends from all over Texas that I've been friends with for decades. And literally, I could pick up a phone and my friends will stop anything they're doing and come help me. I mean, it just, hey, you need some help? I'll get you, help me move this dresser. They don't care. We've been friends forever. Because that's what real friends do, And a lot of people, sadly, they don't think they know what friends are. But that's it, and there's more. I got more, but those are the stories right there, and my one friend, rest in peace. I don't. It's a shame. He had he liked to drink. That was a problem. All right, guys, we're done for tonight, man. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for making PRT the best of what we do. Is just you, the audience. I had a great time. James Fatke, I need to talk to you. You need to get in touch with me. I have a bunch of people I need to record with. You're one of them. What is it? I thought we were going to give that away. We're supposed to give that away in the last giveaway.
Did we?
Who won that? Give me that lamp. Give it to me. Somebody won the lamp that we gave.
Wiley 81.
Where's his information? Bob Wiley 81. You won one of these PRT lamps. Let's do the giveaway real quick here. Yeah. Well, this is actually November, but whatever.
So was last week.
I'm talking about December. Every show in December we're giving away. But we're gonna do it today too. So who hasn't won? Tell me you haven't won, and you'll win one of our delicious T-shirts. Please don't eat it, and don't burn it either.
I mean, we can't stop you from eating it.
If you want to burn it, go ahead. I mean, it's up to you. So let me know if you haven't won. Tell me in the comments section, hey, I haven't won. There you go. See, somebody's fast. Joanne's like, me. Boop. There it is. So you haven't won.
Right.
So you won a T-shirt. Give them the information, Maddie, Tony, somebody.
Yep. Just posted it in the chat.
Down at the bottom of your screen, folks. Well, there it is. Down at the bottom of your screen. Take a look.
Hey, just send an email to that email address and let us know what your name is. Tell us that you won and what you won, and send your mailing address. All you got to do.
You're going to show everybody?
How many people are we doing?
3.
Oh, Sandra said she hasn't won.
We'll try not to. Look, Andres, don't curse it, man. We'll try not to, man.
No guarantees. You know how we are, Andres.
Paul says, I won 5-6 months ago, but never sent the info. Send your info. Send your info, then you'll get it. So we have the new T-shirts. We haven't gone through them yet. We got 2 huge boxes of T-shirts, and we need to get the hoodies. We haven't got it together yet, but for sure, definitely. Show them the lamp on there. We'll put it on you.
Oh, how well that's going to show up. What color would be best? Here, you want to put it up?
There we go. Let's see how it shows up on camera. Oh, come on. There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it changes color.
Yeah, how do you do that?
There's a button.
There we go.
Yeah, and you can make it to where it'll just change.
It's a pretty cool little lamp.
PRT, neat little thing there. Whoever, James Wiley, who you won last time. So who was next that said they hadn't won?
Sandra. For the
Where at?
Sandra Oyer.
Joanne was the first one, and then Katrina Ball was the second one. What are you talking about, Sandra? Who's Sandra? I don't see it.
Well, just read it, Manny.
Yeah,
It's
Sandra.
right.
Yeah, I did. I'm saying it. Sandra Oyervid 6465.
Where is that at?
After one rogue status and right above Randy. Scroll back.
Because the first one I saw was
Yeah, then it was Katrina. She put it in that.
so Katrina says, I have not won. She made sure that we saw that. That's how you're supposed to do it. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Great. We're listening to Faith No More the other. Maddie had never, get this, Maddie has not seen Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
She did not listen to Faith No More. She had not, what was that other movie?
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
Have you watched Tombstone?
Oh yeah.
Okay, at least you've seen that. There's too many movies you haven't seen.
You've seen Lord of the Rings.
Obviously.
Well, we don't know. You're
not
very.
obvious with you.
It's not obvious.
There was another movie we were talking about, and she was like,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it.
It's a lot of them, actually.
No. Dick Richards says, don't poo on it either. So who was next? You said somebody named Sandra, right? That one there. Sandra. Okay, so Sandra, you won too. So we got 3 ladies tonight that won. So congratulations to the 3 winners. Send us your shirt size, your handle, and then your name, address. We can ship it out to you. We did giveaways yesterday, right? We shipped them out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took him to the.
and some of the Patreon too.
Uh-huh.
So Patreon, and keep up with the Patreon guys. That's your responsibility. We can't keep up with it for you. But after 2 months, you get a swag bag, and then every 6 months after that, you get a swag bag. Also, I'd like to extend a welcome to, like I said, to Conrad, who joined the PRT family yesterday after being on a wacky guy show. And I'm not going to talk about it. Just go to last night's live stream and listen to Conrad's encounters. He had and MC, the lady from that said her name was MC. Go listen to the show from last night. It was epic. And it turned out we only had a couple hundred people, and a little over 200 people at the most.
It was fun, though.
But it was fun, and there were a lot of people who have watched it now today, a couple thousand actually. So it was great. It was a great show. They really liked it. It was an impromptu thing. And yeah, so PRT, y'all be nice. Give him a warm welcome to Conrad. And Randy says it was a great show last night. A great way to support the show is to become a Patreon member. $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 tier, $10 tier. You get a book from an autograph book from one of many author friends that we have, a lot of friends that we are friends with. And then you get what? A keychain, you get stickers. Did you ship out without stickers?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I didn't know when we were going to get them.
Because we're waiting on the order.
So,
That's okay. Well, that sucks. There's Bob Wiley. Bob Wiley says, could someone add me to PRT News? Sure, Bob. Just go in there and just go, hey, you know. And then the $20 tier, it's 2 books, right? And then how does it go? 2 books or is it 2 books?
Anyway.
How does it go? I don't want to mess it up.
So $20 tier, I believe they get 2 books.
Are you just trying to remember
tier.
from memory too? Because if you are, you're not
I
going to
got
do it.
it.
Okay. Let Maddie do it.
Okay, so $20 tier, it's you got stickers, keychain, 2 books, and a shirt after 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
After
Then
1 year?
so,
Yeah.
that's what he told me.
I don't think any of us are on track.
That's after 2 months.
No. You said that the $20 don't get a shirt automatically. That they like after a year of being a $20 Patreon.
Oh,
then they
okay.
get a
That's right.
shirt.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what we did. Okay. All right.
But
Who's next?
$30 tier and up, they all get shirts immediately.
Yeah, you all get the shirt. That's right. And then go ahead, read it, Maddie.
All right. So yeah, $30 the shirt, stickers, keychain, 2 books, and then the tumbler. $40 it's the shirt, stickers, keychain, 2 books, and one of Wolf's books, tumbler, and a hat. $50 it's the shirt, stickers, keychain, 2 books, and both of Wolf's books,
Mine
tumbler, and a
autographed.
hat. Yep.
And hoodies.
Yep.
If we have
and
ones.
hoodies.
Yeah, and if it's in stock, you get a hoodie. If not, then you get another shirt. But depending on what time of year it is, too. Because I sent a hoodie to somebody, and they were like, "Well, it's already, April." And well, wait until it's winter again. But sometimes people just want 2 shirts. Yeah. With random files, it says, "Bob, what's your name on Facebook?" I'm not seeing Bob Wiley. Bob, are you lying to us? What about Bob? What about it? This is the best fried chicken ever. Okay, guys. Anyways, we had fun tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who donated, especially Debbie Cothra. Every donation counts. Every donation helps, and it will help with the food drive. We have to get it done, and we will see you folks later. What do y'all want to hear on the way out? What song do y'all want to hear? All of Nelly's music is epic, but what do y'all want to play? We'll let Maddie, since you don't get to be on the live stream very much. What do you want to hear?
Oh man, we already put a lot of my favorites at the beginning, so what about the prophecy one?
Did we play Broken? Long White Beard? Did we play The Broken Crown?
Oh yeah, play that one.
That's Nelly's latest one.
Yeah,
this was Nelly's latest one.
I don't remember. It was something coming through the door. The whispered tears, yours or mine, but pain it will only find. Wounds and wisdom, body and soul. A lifetime journey into the unknown. A broken crown. Only to close my eyes. Turning around in me. Slow motion death, a caravan of ghost stars falling as we watch the moon fade. Bones and wisdom, body and soul, a lifetime journey into the unknown, a broken crown. I feel the river water washing me. All the beautiful things can't be free. In the distance I see the sun clinging to the last day. Wounds and wisdom, body and soul. A lifetime journey into the unknown, a broken crown. No pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It was a beautiful war of flesh and bone against spirit and consciousness. The eternal you of memories in motion to live once more and to die once more.